most of the 2020 year that they played hockey. And unlike the beginning of this season, it feels like they've turned the corner. The thing that I was most skeptical of them being able to do, it feels like they've done. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go knock off the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the playoffs. I'm not even completely convinced that they will make the playoffs. I still think there is a lot of work to do if they want to make the playoffs. I'm not saying, if I were the general manager, if I owned the team, that I still wouldn't be looking to trade Mikael Granlund, looking to trade some of these forwards, Eric Halla, perhaps Kalle Järnkrok, guys that I may not have to protect or may not want to protect. Get something in exchange for Järnkrok today, don't have to protect him come the summer. But it just feels different with this team. It feels different right now. John Hines yesterday was talking about the importance of a win like this. And let me say this, it feels different for him too. Remember the coach that came in, didn't win a lot in New Jersey? We were skeptical. I was certainly skeptical of the hire. Didn't look like they really were taking to him. And then all of a sudden, with John Hines as the coach, this team has totally turned it around. Here's what he said last night after the game.
Yeah, I thought the game was really an intense game. I thought both teams really showed up to play hard. You know, the first period was a real battle. I thought the pace and the intensity level, not a lot of whistles, a lot of physicality by both teams, and I think much more the same in the second. And I thought it was really a hard-fought game. I think the thing I really liked about with our group tonight was, we just really stayed with it. We knew that we had to be a little bit better. I thought Dallas was better, probably for two periods, and there were certain aspects of our game that needed to improve. But I really liked the work ethic, the commitment. But as we've talked about, just like the toughness, the mental toughness to stay with it and dig in the third period, the physical toughness of being very competitive in battles and being physical and not flinching. Even though we were down 2-1, we knew we needed to be better. And I think it's a big step for our group. The fact that you have that intense of a game. And things don't always go your way all the time, but we stayed with it, and guys got rewarded for it, found a way to win.
When John Hines first got here, we questioned the work ethic of the team. Remember the guys we looked at and said, they've got their contracts, now they're fat and happy. John Hines, when he first took over, kept preaching mental fortitude. When things don't go your way, the team has to fight through it. The team has to take a bad penalty, kill the penalty off. He preached it. Consistency, mental fortitude, those were the two things he kept saying over and over and over again. And right now, what's he harping on? Not the idea of being tough, not the idea of being mentally, I don't want to say mentally fortituded, but mentally strong. He's saying now that's what they are. That's what they were last night in that win. And I cannot, as somebody who has been as down on this team as anybody has been, as far as this team is concerned, I got to be honest with you. There's something different about the way they've been winning these games. There's something different about the way they've been playing. There's something different about their confidence level on the ice. There's something different about the way they kill off penalties. There's something different about the way they pass the puck into the zone. There's something different about the way they move the puck on the power play. There's something different about the way this coach is running this team. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I have a theory, but it's different. Now, the other side of it, and that's the good. Dallas, Chicago, Detroit. I'm not sitting here just poo-pooing these teams and saying, well, Chicago sucks and Dallas is broken and Detroit's always been terrible since they put in a salary cap in this league. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to say this. They're not beating Tampa Bay. They're not beating Florida. They're not beating Carolina. Now, they have. I mean, that road trip, they could have been buried. They didn't get buried. That's what started all of this. But it's not like the 6 in a row is because of Tampa Bay. And, again, as far as getting excited about the Predators are, if you want to get excited about making the playoffs and you want to get excited about having a nice little run this year and maybe go 6 games in the first round with Tampa, and it would be an exciting 6 games, and you want to get excited about that, fine. Like, you can do that. When I was a kid in high school, that's what we used to get excited about. I mean, we really used to sit back and we used to look at them and we used to say, hey, make the playoffs. We'd go to playoff games. I sat in the front row of a game against Detroit in 2008, game 4, or whatever game it was. I think it was 4. They lost, got knocked out by the Red Wings, raised the sticks in the air, everybody clapped, way to go. It didn't feel that way when they put the sticks in the air against Winnipeg in 2018. There were different expectations. Around here, when we talk about this team, it's about making the cup. It's about competing. And so by beating Chicago and Dallas and Detroit, it doesn't really measure yourself. But at least this team is fun to watch. They're interesting. They're playing hard. They're playing together. The coach looks like he's getting through to them. So we need to take it with a grain of salt, but we should like it. Here's the other thing. Have you seen the schedule? When you start the year off and you're playing Tampa Bay and you're playing Florida and you're playing Carolina and then you mix in a Dallas and then that gets postponed and you mixed in a Detroit here and there. But how many games have they played against Tampa Bay so far? 15? 30? Here's the schedule for the rest of the month. And I go up until the trade deadline because that's when decisions have to really get made. Dallas, and again, Ian, you just say good or not good when I say the next team. Dallas Thursday night.
Good.
You think Dallas is good?
I think they're pretty solid.
So I'm lumping Dallas, Chicago, and Detroit in the not good category, but that's okay because Chicago on Saturday.
Yeah, I wouldn't say good, but they're decent.
Detroit.
Not good.
Detroit.
Terrible.
Tampa.
Good.
Dallas.
Decent.
Trade deadline. I mean, the thing is David Boyle has kept asking for more time. We said before the road trip, we said no more time. Now, I haven't completely moved off that. I'm not sitting here today saying everything I said 3 weeks ago isn't true. I'm not saying that. It was true at the time, and there's still a lot of truth in it. But they're going to win some games now. They should. If they keep playing with this intensity, with this passion, they're going to beat Detroit. They're going to beat Chicago. I think they're going to beat Dallas. They're going to win some games now. So lock it in. Here we go. This last night's game was one of those games where, again, I think if we look back, let's say the Predators pull off some kind of crazy miracle season. Last night's game might be a game we look back to and say, remember that overtime win against Dallas? That's when you had a feeling. Remember Ryan Tannehill's comeback against Kansas City in his year of his comes in for Mariota. Titans are playing at home against Kansas City. They almost have to win out the rest of the way to make the playoffs. They're playing Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes returns off of injury. They get down. They come back. Kansas City fluffs 2 field goals in the last 5 minutes of the game. Tannehill gets the ball with a chance to win. He goes right down the field. He hits Ferkser. He picks up a first down with his legs. He hits Humphries for a touchdown. And all of a sudden, it just felt different with Ryan Tannehill from that moment on. That's how I feel right now about this Preds team. Now, I don't think this Preds team is going to the conference final like that Titans team did. But nobody then thought that Titans team was going to the conference final either. So, again, it feels different. It doesn't mean that if I own the team, I would change my approach. And I know I'm talking a little bit both sides out of my mouth. I tend to do that a little bit. But it feels different. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Here's the question for the callers. We'll get to the calls first, then we'll get to the text second. But here's the question today. How do you feel about the Predators? Are you buying this? Are you drinking this Kool-Aid? I don't know how you could just totally dump on it. I heard Adam Vingan this morning on Robbie and Rex Road. Even he's kind of changed his tune a little bit. I don't know how you can dump on it. And it's exciting. Let me say this. There is something about an entertainment value of sports. This Preds team is way more watchable right now. And I got 2 reasons. All this turnaround, and there's a lot of things to like. To me, there's 2 reasons why. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. We're delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app.
at the right point, sent down to the half wall. Yossi for Yarncroke. Here's Tolvanen. Left circle, goes back for Yarncroke. Yossi, the one-timer, the score! Predators tie it up on the power play goal.
There you go. That was Roman Yossi. Ian, I cannot tell you how excited I got when Roman Yossi put that goal in, because I was listening to Robbie and Rex Road yesterday. They do their pick to click at 8:45. Every single Predators weekday game day morning, presented by New Amsterdam Vodka. You can win a Preds prize pack, thanks to Pick to Click. And they were just giving Robbie the business because he had not picked a single one to click on. So I said, all right, I'm going to pick one tonight, and it's going to click. And then when it clicks, I will retire from picking to clicking. But I almost wanted to do it and to be right and to have Robbie be wrong. And then that way I probably could, dog Robbie about it for an hour. And Roman Yossi scored, and my phone lit up the second Roman Yossi scored.
I'm sure it did. Twitter was a buzz.
Lit up. But then Ellie Tolvanen scored. Not to say that I have any problem with that, but
and
Ellie
Robbie
Tolvanen
stole
scored.
he stole your sunshine.
And then it was like, hey, great job, Robbie. And I'm like, man, I was really excited to kind of put Robbie in the ground because, they spend a whole 4 hours every day putting me into the ground. I only feel like it's fair that I get the opportunity to do so, whether it's my Oregon State basketball takes or it's my Preds takes. But let's get yours in there, 615-737-1025. By the way, speaking of that Roman Yossi goal, he will join us 5 o'clock. So we'll have Roman Yossi on the program. I do have a thought about why the Predators are having the success they're having. I have 2 reasons. To me, it's very simple. One, Ellie Tolvanen. He's an elite goal scorer. And we can argue all day, every day about how he needed time at the AHL level and how he wasn't ready. I think the Predators didn't know what they had. I think that they soured on him. That they got him in here. They thought he was going to be what he is right now. He wasn't. They soured on him, sent him to Milwaukee, hoped maybe he'd find a little something, maybe become Craig Smith or do something, and now he's lighting it up. And it's like, see, we always knew this guy could do it. I don't buy that. I think they've gotten really lucky that they literally just went down to the minor leagues and pulled out an elite goal scorer. The second thing is the goalies. The goalies went from being below average to their peaks, both of them, Rene and Saros. And that's what they're doing right now. And to me, that's the difference. And it has rejuvenated the entire team. That the confidence that they get from the goalies has, when Rocco Grimaldi has a hat trick and scores 4 goals in a game, that tells you what you need to know. Everybody's feeling the juice. And it's coming from the goalies and Tolvanen. And I think Hines has really gotten through to him. It's like now they look at Hines and they say, hey, all this stuff this guy's been preaching, it's working. And so I think that's why this team is where they are. I promised your phones, 615-737-1025. We're also streaming, by the way, on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope, you name it, you can get the show. Nate wants to kick us off on John Hines Day. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, guys. I like where the Preds are heading. It's not fun to watch games where you're just getting beat all the time.
Yep.
Yes, while we are wanting to at least somewhat sell, you want to win a few games at least, just so you're not always down in the dumps. I like what Hines said in the interview on Darren Donick and Chase about Luke Cunnin, what he told him. That, he said, you're not going to come into the lineup right away. You're just going to have to wait for your opportunity. And that gives me hope for when the players come back from injury, that he's not just going to revert back to the same old players, that he's, legitimately going to keep going with what's working.
Amen. Amen, Nate. And I appreciate your call. And I think that is, Hines tried this a little bit last year when he got put in as coach. And I think it was a trip to Vancouver or it was something before the shutdown, and he benched Johansson, he benched Duchesne, he benched Forsberg, and I think at another point he benched Arvidsson. And it was like, whoa, look at the coach bench him. And I remember Floyd was a little worried about that, saying, hey, man, you don't go bench the good players. You might be able to do that once. But once you do that, after that, you're not benching them anymore. And so I got a little nervous about it. But, the problem with this team is when everybody signs a long contract, it's like playing time, ice time, shots on goal, the certain lines, power play time, penalty kill time. Like, it's all like it's given. It's like, hey, that's my second line. I'm a first-line guy. Put me on the first line. And I think Hines has kind of struggled to get that out of these guys of like, hey, nobody's entitled to anything. When you go down to your taxi squad and you bring up Ellie Tolvanen and you bring up Alexander Carrier and you bring up Matthew Olivier and you bring up some of these guys that are out there playing their guts out, it makes it easier to say, why the hell would I put you on the first line when I can put Ellie Tolvanen out there? Why would I put you on the second line when I can put Calle Yarncroke and Mikhail Granlund out there and they're playing their butts off? I mean, I said this about Carrier. I mean, last night it looked like Dallas was challenging Carrier, and in the third and really the third period, but the second and third periods, he looked like he started to hold his own. And I heard them talking about it on the midday show today about it looked like they were going at Carrier and they were challenging Carrier. And I thought, remember when the Dallas Stars played Ryan Ellis in the playoffs? Remember what Jamie Benn did to him? I mean, he just annihilated him. So, like, that's a step in the right direction. Jeff is up next here on the program. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I was calling in the same thing that Nate said, kind of stole my thunder a bit. And exactly what Hines said. If you're going to want playing time, you're going to have to put in the effort that these guys are playing. And in my mind, that makes you a team. The team is now gelling, and they're all pulling together, and everybody's making their skills show. And basically, if you do not put the effort in, you're not getting ice time. And it's going to be interesting when Dutchie gets back. Is he going to put the effort in when he gets in and see how much better this team can be when he gets off the IR?
Jeff, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for your call. I mean, I think about this for Duchesne and for Ellis. And if there aren't massive chips on the shoulder of those two guys, then they don't need to be here. Because if I was paid the kind of money that they were paid, and I was, put into the leadership role the way that they've put these guys into that leadership role, and I were to go out of the lineup, my team, when I go out of the lineup, is an unmitigated disaster. I go out of the lineup, my team starts to play better, and my team gets hot, and my team makes a run at it. And my team is everybody's working together. Everyone's playing their butt off. The fans are happy. The owners are happy. The front office is happy. The coaches are happy. The other guys on the team are happy. I'm sure that Matt Duchesne, I heard Matt Duchesne on this morning with Robbie and Rexroad. And Matt Duchesne, I don't know him very well, but I'll say that Matt Duchesne seems like a really great guy. You can't tell me he's not sitting up there watching these games, injured up in the press box, thinking to himself, man, I got to go prove something when I get back out there. I mean, I got to show them. I got to prove to this team, to this fan base, even to myself, I got to prove that this team can't just do it without me. Because that would scare me if I was Matt Duchesne, that these guys are doing this without me, and then it's like, are you really that important? I mean, he's going to get his money, but I don't see and I know some of these guys get fat and happy with the contracts or got fat and happy with the contracts, and I do think that was an issue. I never thought that was an issue with Duchesne. I thought when Duchesne signed and came to the team last year, it was like a giant piano was strapped to his back of pressure that he felt like he needed to perform under. And so I think there's a lot of pressure there. He'll get back in the lineup, and I still think there's something more left. Like, everybody's like, if we could just get Seattle to take Johansson or Duchesne, I'm like, hey, you know what? If they could take Johansson, that'd be fine. I still think there might be something there with Duchesne. I do. But, yeah, going back to the caller's point, if you're Ellis, if you're Duchesne, and you're not having a little bit of FOMO and a little bit of questioning, am I that important? This team is kicking butt without me. That is something. That is something that is legitimately tangible. What did Corey Curtis text me? He texted me something. And, I'm just so glad that this team is worth watching. Corey Curtis said, Hines said it before the game yesterday, it's simply competitive spirit. And I would agree a little bit. The goaltending is a whole heck of a lot better than it was. And I would argue that some of the goaltending that started this run was elite level goaltending. everybody likes to bring up the 2017 team. Everybody likes to say, hey, remember the 2017 team and the run they went on? See, I hosted 4 hours of radio every day leading up to that. So I remember the talks on air about, do we trust Pekka in a best-of-7 series against Chicago? Do we think Pekka is slowing down? Pekka did not have a great season in 2016-2017. Pekka was phenomenal in that playoff run. He took you from a good team to 2 wins short of the Stanley Cup championship. That's what he can do when he's on. Saros, I think, very similar. When he's on, he's one of the best. When he's not, he ain't very good. Now, it drives me crazy because, I feel like that's independent of coaching. I feel like that's independent of the rest of the team. I feel like it's independent of everything. It's just, is the goalie playing well or not? But right now, they're red hot. I think that's the most important thing. I think Tolvanen is second, and I think that has festered, has kind of ignited the fire, and these guys are so pumped to not suck that it has just totally taken them to another level. Back to your phones on this next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. I mean, what a big win. What an exciting win last night for the Predators. Let me tell everybody out there, tune in later on today in the show. We'll reveal a keyword for you to text into the game text line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate Giveaway. It's a Dos Equis prize pack, including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing Bundt Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter. Roman Yossi, 5 o'clock today. Special announcement on the program at 5:30 today. Very exciting day. Stillman and Company. We're delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I think what's going on is that, if you really go back to the start of the long road trip that we had, we did have a couple of meetings and talked about why are we not committed to playing a certain way with our forecheck, our reloads, the play without the puck, the intensity level you need to play with. And there was a commitment on that road trip to go through. And because of that commitment, we had success. And then from success comes more buy-in and more commitment to doing what you need to do and how we need to win as a team. Every team has an identity, and it took us a little bit longer than maybe we would all have liked to get to the identity that we want, but now we have it. And what comes with that is pushback, not flinching, getting back to your game, understanding clearly what it is and believing in it. And I think over the last 3 weeks, we've gotten to that. And now we need to stay with it and continue to improve it.
Coach John Hines, I don't want to use the word apology for this, but I do feel like when you hear Hines say, hey, we went on that road trip and we had meetings and we watched video and we talked about it and we said, why are we not playing or committed to the level we need to be committed to? I do remember that before that road trip, Ian, I don't know if you remember on this show, Hal Gill came on and I said to Hal, I was like, yeah, Hal, like, let's keep it real. Like, this road trip, like, they're going out there to die, right? Like, Yossi's out, Ellis is out, Duchesne's out, Cunning's out, Richardson's out, Saros is out. I mean, they're going out there to die, right? And, Hal, being the way that he is.
He stuck up for him.
Oh, he stuck up. And I'm not, again, Hal and I, we have a certain kind of relationship. And Hal, I mean, he was like, no, they're going out there to play. This team wants a chance to win. They think they can. I'm like, okay, Hal, thanks for that one. I'll go, okay. I mean, clearly that road trip was beneficial. When I was in Puerto Rico, they got smashed on a Tuesday night by Carolina. They got crushed on a Saturday by Florida. And I kind of knew they then start to head out to the road trip. I knew. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long hockey season. And to Hal's credit and the team's credit and the coach's credit and everybody's credit, I mean, to their credit, they didn't throw in the towel. And I don't know if it means anything, but at least for right now, they didn't throw in the towel. Lee is up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Lee, go ahead on the Predators.
Yeah, hey, enjoy the show.
Thank you.
I was going to kind of follow along that same theme. I wonder when you talk to Yossi if you're going to tell him how you've criticized a lot of his teammates and his general manager and maybe how wrong you've been. And, now they're the hottest team in hockey. I know a lot of things changed, but I just wondered if your attitude has changed.
So it's interesting you say that, and I appreciate your call. And I guess when I hear that question, and I don't think he's wrong to ask that question of me. I think the question is, what do you mean by attitude has changed? Am I more excited at 7 o'clock tomorrow night to watch the Predators? Hell yeah, I'm way more excited to watch the Predators. Do I feel better about the coach since this has all gone on? Yeah, I feel a lot better about the coach. And Ian, you can back me up on this. I mean, even when they went out on the road trip and they didn't get slaughtered, that was when I started to say, hey, take your hats off and start tipping it to Hines.
Mm-hmm.
Because that meant as much to me as what this is right now.
You wonder how long, if it just took, I mean, we talked about it a lot, but last year and then the pause and then the bubble, and then it's just been a lot. Sometimes I think it just takes a little bit for teams to kind of settle in,
I mean,
especially to a new
Hines,
coach.
And we talked about this, at length, but what got me on Hines was we had Crispy on a Thursday when things were bad. We had Crispy on. And Crispy, I mean, look, he works for the team, and we have to remember that. Not that means that what he says isn't true, but he works for the team. But Crispy is also the kind of guy that he's going to tell us, he's not going to stand on the table for something if he doesn't believe in it. He may ignore it, but he's not going to throw anybody under the bus, but he's also not going to stand on the table if he doesn't believe it. And when Crispy came on our show and went on like a 1.5-minute rant about people who criticized John Hines, then that same night after they lost, saying the same thing at the end of the postgame show, I said, okay, that's telling me something. Crispy is going out of his way to stick up for the coach. And Crispy, I mean, his word is like gospel to me. as far as this team's concerned. Now, he asked the question about my attitude. The caller asked the question about my attitude for the team. Yeah, I'm more excited about it right now. Do I think they're going to beat Tampa in the playoffs if they make it? No, I don't. Do I think this team has the potential of getting to a conference final? And I don't even know what conference they're in right now. I don't even know if there is a conference this year. But no, I don't. Do I worry in the long term that making the playoffs this year, or not just being awful and having a true sell and getting a first-round pick that could be third overall, am I worried that is going to keep the team from getting that big boy forward or whatever big piece it is? Yeah, I'm a little worried about it. Am I worried that it means that David Poyle's job is safe no matter what? Yeah, I'm a little worried about it. So I can't answer the question about has my attitude changed. I still feel the way I felt 3 weeks ago. It's just more exciting to watch this hockey team play. And I mean, yeah, you've changed a little bit as far as thinking what this team's capable of. That team was competing with Detroit for worst in the league. This team might make the playoffs. So it's a little different. So I don't know. Is that like a cop-out? Is that like a pleading the fifth?
Not totally, but...
I mean, do you see where I'm going with that?
For sure.
Okay. Scott is up next in the third period last night. Thank you for calling the show. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, just on what you just said, I called you 6-8 weeks ago to complain about Hines, but
True.
It was for a specific reason. I always thought they had the talent to compete. Unlike you, I mean, put it this way: we are still 30th in the NHL on penalty kill, and that's after a string of killing 24 of 26 successfully. That's how bad we were early in the year. I mean, we gave up like six power play goals to Dallas in a 2-game set.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to remind me. That was awful.
I mean, that's how bad we were, and that's why I was down, not because of the talent, but what I saw last night. I thought Dallas actually came out more aggressive. They came out with their A game early on, and they were taking it to us. And we had half the shot attempts, and they were more physical. And then what turned it around, Fabro took, I forget who it was, he took somebody at the goal and planted them about 3 feet under the ice. And I stood up out of my recliner and just screamed at the TV. If we're going to get that out of Fabro, man, we are in good shape. And then by the third period, we were first to every puck. We were winning every puck battle in the corner. And then Trennan and Olivier and Sisson hit Saudi so hard, I thought they were never going to get up. He crushed Richardson or somebody behind the goal and took the puck away from him at the same time. It's one of the hardest hits I've seen in years. We really answered a challenge from a very physical team and upped it. I mean, we really, really, really brought it.
Well, and I'll give you another one, Scott. Scott, I'll give you another one. Thank you for your call. I'll give you another one. I mean, I think Carrier. I think they win at Carrier last night. They wanted to see, okay, this kid's playing well, but can he rough it with the big boys? And I think by the time you got to the third period, you saw an Alexander Carrier who thought, yeah, I can go with the big boys. I can take on the big boys. And to his point, I mean, the physicality of the team is much higher. The want to is much better. But I think that's a fire that was stoked by the success they had on the road trip. When they beat Tampa on that Monday day game that we were off the air, they beat Tampa. I think that told them, hey, you know what? With decent goaltending, we can be a pretty good team. 615-737-1025. I see your text into the text line. We will get back to it. Plus, coming up next, we got a lot of football. Pro days are going on. Mock drafts, big boards, pass rushers, wide receivers, corners. Chris Sanders is going to join us. Plus, Roman Yossi will join us later today at 5. 615-737-1025. 1025, the game is kicking off every weekend with free beer. Who doesn't love free beer? Tune in all day Friday for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. Stillman and Company, Chris Sanders is next. We're delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025, the game. Stillman and Company, pro days are rocking and rolling, and I don't know what to believe on this. Kyle Pitts today at Florida ran a 4.44. Jamar Chase, LSU. Now, I think that Jamar Chase is the best player in the draft. Like, I think he's better than Trevor Lawrence. I think he is legitimately the best player in the draft. I thought that LSU team last year was maybe the best LSU team, or not best LSU team, one of the best college teams I've ever seen, and I thought Jamar Chase was the best player on it. Jamar Chase, 41-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump, 4.38 in the 40. Chris Sanders joins as former Titans receiver. Chris, when you see these pro day numbers, Justin Fields wowed at his pro day. Yeah. Zach Wilson wowed at his pro day. Do you buy it? Are you saying, hey, it's more accurate because there's no combine? I mean, what do you think, Chris Sanders, when you see these numbers and you see these guys working out?
I mean, you're going to see the numbers. You're going to see a lot of 4.3s. I mean, everybody runs 4.3. It's kind of like Oprah. You run a 4.3, I run a 4.3. All that is great, But it basically it's going to come down to, who can play football when you get into OTAs. I mean, I know Kyle Pitts is looking good. I know Justin Fields looks good. I know Chase looks good. But at the end of the day, everybody looks good in shorts. It's going to come down to who can process it when they get to camp and make plays immediately, because these guys are special players. Now, don't get me wrong, but you got to remember, they're in shorts.
Chris, what do you think about the quarterbacks? I mean, we see all this movement. San Francisco moves up to 3. Some people are saying that it's a smokescreen. They're not interested in Mac Jones. They're really interested in Trey Lance. They don't even go to Justin Fields' pro day. It's like people forgot about Justin Fields when they kept comparing him to Lawrence. We know Lawrence is going number 1. Everybody's hyping up Zach Wilson. What do you make of it?
I mean, it all depends on what team gets the player that fits their scheme. I mean, I looked at Justin Fields' pro day. I mean, he did good. I mean, you look at Lawrence also, but all those guys are looking good. Everybody's looking good throwing the ball. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, but it's all going to come down to what is the best fit for their team. And, everybody's going to say, well, Justin Fields, everybody's going to say Lawrence, everybody's going to talk about the kid from BYU. That's great that they should go in this spot or that spot or go to that team, but the team that's going to pick their quarterback is going to be the fit for their team. And, I remember when I was going through the draft, all these other teams were talking to me. Washington was talking to me. The Jets were talking to me. All these other teams were talking to me. But the team that drafted me was the Houston Oilers/Titans. They never talked to me. So I think that we can't get in the attitude of, they didn't go to Justin Fields' pro day, but you never know. That might be a smokescreen for them to jump up and go get him.
Chris, I'm a huge believer in take the best player available, because even if you take a Derrick Henry when you already have a running back, in 2 years you'll have the best running back in the NFL. Same with A.J. Brown. Same with Byard. Those guys did not come in and start right away, or they were not expected to start right away. And obviously the 3 of the best players in the Titans. And yet I look at this draft, I see 4 picks in the top 100. I see the pass rushers sliding down towards the end of the first round, early second, and I'm thinking that has to be, between the corners and the pass rushers, that has to be where the Titans pounce this year. What do you think when you start to see some of these mock drafts and where guys are projected to go and what how do you kind of think about what the Titans will be able to do?
Jared, that's a great point. I mean, if you look at the Tennessee Titans, what's the 2 glaring needs that they need? They need a top cornerback and they need an edge rush. I know the Tennessee Titans signed Dupree, which is great, but you still need some more depth and you need some more guys to go get it. I mean, look at how deep the corners are in the draft. I mean, you got Elijah Molden, you got Shakir Brown, you got Sean Way from the Ohio State University. Then you have some pass rush. You have Azizi, I can't pronounce the name, Ajari or something like that. I can't.
Aziz Ojulari.
Thank you so much. And
I've had a lot of practice.
I know, but then you have the kid from Penn State, Jason Owe. I mean, you have a lot of opportunities. So if those guys start sliding, then now you have to pick up the litter to get a top cornerback and also get a top edge rusher to even take it even further. Just imagine if a lot of those guys drop, I would trade down, get some more picks, and still get a good edge rusher and still get a top corner. So it's all going to depend on what Mike Vrabel does and J. Rob does. If they want to slide down and still get the guy, or take the guy that's available.
How do you feel about the wide receivers? The guys at the top, the Titans aren't going to be able to get. Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. They won't be able to get those guys. That second wave, Kadarius Toney out of Florida, Marshall out of LSU, Bateman out of Minnesota, Moore out of Purdue. Those guys could be late first, mid-seconds, maybe even into the third. You're a wide receiver. We know they've got Reynolds on one side and A.J. Brown on the other. They need a slot. They probably need a guy that can really be the number 2 wide receiver for this team. What do you think about wide receiver? How big of a need is it, and where are you looking for them to address it?
Yeah, it's a need, and the kid that I like is the guy from Florida, Toney. I mean, he's 5'11", he's got quick feet, and he's electric in the slot. So now you have Reynolds on the outside, you have A.J. Brown, and you're in 11 personnel, so you have a lot of speed. I mean, if you look at the Tennessee Titans wide receiver, who's the fastest guy on their team right now? It's A.J. Brown. He's a 4'6", understanding he makes big plays, but you got to get a receiver that's electric. When I say electric, that's the perfect guy. It's Toney from Florida. I mean, if you look at the list of receivers that are in this draft, it's so many. I mean, just the guys that you named, but also there's a kid from Auburn that we didn't really discuss, and that's Anthony Schwartz. I mean, you're looking at a guy that's 6 feet, 197, the guy that can play ball. His wingspan is long, and he can make those plays. So even though you may miss out on those top receivers like you talked about chasing Devontae Smith and Terrence Marshall. You may miss out on those guys, but you still have a whole bunch of value in those second wave of wide receivers. So I just think that the Tennessee Titans need to be patient. I mean, I understand those receivers that we talked about are special, but don't be surprised those late wave of receivers do better than those guys that are getting drafted before them.
Yeah, Chris Sanders is our guest. So I asked Ryan Tannehill this question before free agency, and he was very non-committal about it. And as you would expect, I asked him, hey, if John Robinson and Mike Vrabel used all the draft capital and all the free agency money on defense, would you be okay with that? And he, of course, was very non-committal, saying, hey, and this was right after the Ravens playoff game. He was like, hey, those guys played great. But whatever Mike and John do, we'll get back together and we'll try to build it as a whole team starting in July. Let me ask you the question, since you're not on the team. If you're Ryan Tannehill, are you okay right now with J-Rob handing you this offense saying, you got a left tackle, you got a left guard, you got a center, you got a right guard, you got 2 wide receivers, obviously one special in A.J., the other's Josh Reynolds. You got Derrick Henry, and you got the receiving tight end as a backup and the blocking tight end as a backup. You got to make do with that on your $29 million salary because I'm going to go fix the defense, not just in free agency, but in the draft. Would you be okay with that if you were Ryan Tannehill?
Absolutely, yes. And the reason why I say absolutely yes is because if you look at the soar of this Tennessee Titans team, what was it? It was the defense. We need corners. We need a secondary that's going to be ball hawks. Because if you look at the bright spot of the Tennessee Titans overall, it was the offense. You have A.J. Brown. I know Corey Davis is gone. I know John Smith is gone. But you still have the base of your team, and the base of your team is Henry. Henry's the road dog. Then you got A.J. Brown who's going to make plays on the outside. And you really haven't lost a lot with, I hate to say this because I'm a Corey Davis fan, you haven't lost a lot with losing Corey Davis. You got Reynolds is kind of like the same player. So now you still have all these core players and you still have impact players. So even if J-Rob and Vrabel go out and just strictly go defense, I will be on board with that because if you look at the reason why the Tennessee Titans didn't go to the Super Bowl, it was because they had a terrible defense. So I would be on board with that.
ESPN's latest power rankings after free agency ranks the Titans 8th, Chris. They've got Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland, and Baltimore ahead of them in the AFC. Do you feel like that's right, or do you think it's a little too optimistic or a little too down on the Titans?
I mean, I think it's okay. I think 8th is a pretty good spot because there's still some question marks. And one of the question marks is, Dupree, that came from Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh, he's a great player. He's a great name. He's got a motor, and he brings a tenacity to his defense. But the only question mark that you have is, can his knee handle that? And that's going to be the concern. And then, you added Josh Reynolds and you added a whole bunch of different guys. But I think they're right where the Tennessee Titans can be, but there's still some questions that need to still be answered.
Chris Sanders, if you played in the league and you were told, hey, there's going to be a 17th game, how would you feel about it?
That means an extra check. Heck yeah. No, I mean, listen, and this is just me. I'm not going to, try to act like I'm Mr. Big and all this stuff. But if I love football, Jared, I grew up playing football, and my dream was to play in the NFL, and my dream was to catch touchdowns, and my dream was to play in the NFL. If they ask me to have a 17th game, why wouldn't I? That's my dream. That's what I love to do. That's what I've been trained to do all my life. So why should I pout and be like, man, we got another 17 game. I understand the risk of getting hurt, but so stinking what? I worked hard to get here, so add 2 more games. I wouldn't care. Why? Because I'm absolutely in love with the game, Jared.
Let me say this. I said this the other day about the 17th game. First of all, when the owners and players agreed to the possibility of a 17th game, didn't we know that was going to happen? Like,
exactly.
I mean, the owners, they're going around the owners meeting. Hey, who is for free money?
Yeah.
Everybody raised their hand. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. I mean, even the Raiders, who never vote with the league, they were probably like, yeah, give us the free money. But the second thing is, I understand some players may not like it. It's one extra game. To your point, it's an extra check. You're going to get more money on the cap. There's provisions, media kickers, bit larger piece of the pie for all these things that were negotiated. And on top of it, I mean, like the fans, I think about the stadium workers, the people who run the parking lots. I think about the restaurants, the bars. I mean, Chris, we do the pregame show. Those places get packed for Titan games. So you're telling that bartender, it might injure me a little bit more. I don't want you to make an extra $20,000 or whatever they make for a night like that. So I think 17 games is good all around. And I think if you don't like it, then you're a crybaby. The other thing about it too, Chris, is the Titans are going to get New Orleans this year with the 17th game.
Oh, but go ahead.
No Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Indianapolis gets Tampa Bay. I will take that.
Take that. But see, here's the good thing about it, Jared, is if you already secured your yourself in the playoffs and also you won your conference, sit your players out that game.
Yep.
So it's a win-win situation. So instead of we got a 17 game, why don't you just win your division and sit your starters out and then get ready for the playoffs? See, It's a win-win situation. I understand the physicality of it, which is great, but understand you get to play football, dang up. I wish I could play. I mean, listen, I'll take the 17th game. I'll take an 18th game. Why? Number one, that check is good. Number two, I love football. Love it, man.
Chris, I know the story we've told about if you had taken your game check every week that you were on the Titans and had bought a house in Nashville. The way the properties have just increased, what that would be like. They used to tell every NFL player, hey, go buy another house with that 17th game and call me in 30 years or 20 years and tell me what you're making on that house.
I wish he was my agent, man. Dang-gummit.
There you go. Chris Sanders, former Titans receiver, always joining us.
Last thing. I got to get on you first.
Uh-oh.
I was looking at Instagram, and I saw you singing karaoke.
I was singing karaoke on Instagram. That is correct.
I was like, is that John Candy? I didn't know. I'm like, what is going on? I didn't know what to do.
Me and TD are going to come for you because TD told me that you said that he reminds you of Gary Coleman. So TD and we're going to come for Chris Sanders one day.
Oh, let's go, man.
Always appreciate you, Chris.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, there, G.
Yep, he is one of the best. Former Titans receiver Chris Sanders joining us on the program. Coming up next, by the way, I thought my karaoke was pretty good. Let me just state that for the record. And remind me to green story that and keep Chris off the green stories or who knows. Coming up next, the Predators have desperately wanted something. Do they have it? Is it a little too soon? We'll discuss next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number here on Stillman & Company. Roman Yossi will join us at 5 o'clock. The tournament is down to just 4 teams. And my friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook app are trying to hook you up. That's right. We got Baylor, we got Houston, we got Gonzaga, we got UCLA. So if you've been watching from the sidelines, now is your chance to get in on the action. FanDuel Sportsbook is hooking up new users with exclusive 40-1 odds on all 4 teams left in the bracket. That's right. Even the favorites, 40-1 on any team to win this round. So if you go with Gonzaga, I feel pretty good about your chances. You can win $200 on a $5 bet. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and make your first deposit to unlock exclusive 40-1 odds. The app is so easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid in as little as 24 hours. Just sign up with the promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code JGM. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. Must wager in a designated offer market. $10 first deposit required. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For problem gambling support, call 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The Game. Roman Josi will join us in 2 hours for an exclusive. The Predators are red hot. They've won 6 in a row. And by the way, more games with Dallas, more games with Chicago, more games with Detroit. They've got one legitimate playoff opponent, Tampa Bay, before the trade deadline. And David Poile has kind of been so-so. You know, he certainly feels to me like he's been, I don't know, a little non-committal when it comes to the trade deadline. And so we'll see. We'll see where they're going. The biggest change that this team has had, in my opinion, is the addition of Eeli Tolvanen. And we've talked about the history of Eeli Tolvanen many a times on this show. In fact, his first ever interview when he joined the Predators, when he came over to America, he was 18 years old. Poor kid. I mean, he did the interview with us. The fans had packed Barrel House for him, and it was Floyd, me, Ellie Tolvanen, and he, English obviously not his first language. I mean, I thought he did a great job with the interview, but you could tell, man, it was a different life. Welcome to the NHL, kid. And he wasn't totally ready for it. That team was a President's Trophy team. That team was a Cup contender. He wasn't ready. Then the next year, they sent him to Milwaukee, which he had the right to not do. I mean, when they signed him to the entry-level contract, it was, you will not go to Milwaukee. If you go to Milwaukee, you can go back to KHL. And they ended up convincing him to go to Milwaukee. He goes to Milwaukee. Then the next year, he goes to Milwaukee. And they kept saying, we don't, he's not ready. We don't know. Then in the trade talks, whether it was the talks leading up to the 2019 deadline about Mark Stone, but it just felt like teams didn't value Ellie Tolvanen as a high-end guy anymore. Then Ellie Tolvanen doesn't make the team. Out of camp. He does not make this team. And David Poile was like, we got to see, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, this kid, I mean, he's obviously not all that in a bag of chips if he can't make the team. Now, I'd argue he's the number one or number two behind goaltending, the number one reason why this team is where they are right now. He is electric. He is, when they picked him, and the Preds media said, they had him ranked as the fourth best player in the draft, and I thought that was a lot of Bobo Homer talk, and then he lit it up in the Olympics, and I thought, okay, maybe there's a chance. It looks like that may be the case. The Predators have longed, since the day they became a franchise, the Predators have longed for a big boy forward. If you've listened to this show, you know I've talked about it. Because over the years, they've lost in the playoffs to the big boy forwards. Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin in the Stanley Cup final, big boy forwards. Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane in 2015, big boy forwards. Even the teams that they would play had big boy forwards. Vladimir Tarasenko won the cup in St. Louis, big boy forward. Last year, Tampa Bay, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, who will be back this year for the playoffs, Braden Point, big boy forwards. Alexander Ovechkin in Washington is a big boy forward. The Predators they had good forwards, but they've never had a big boy forward. The closest thing they've had to a big boy forward is Philip Forsberg. And Philip is just a little bit short of that big boy forward level. So I have to ask, is Ellie Tolvanen, after all of the looking and the begging and the trading and the signing and the drafting, is Ellie Tolvanen becoming a big boy forward? Big boy forwards, unlike their counterparts, kind of the fake big boy forward, the guy you talk yourself into, like a Ryan Johansson. He was a high pick. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. He's got skill. He's not consistent. Ellie Tolvanen, ever since he found his footing, has been consistent. That shot, just like Ovechkin from the half wall on the power play, that shot ain't going anywhere, and it's hard to defend. Is he becoming a big boy forward? When his stars started to dim on the prospect level, there was a lot of talk that he might be kind of a Craig Smith guy, a second-line player. You use him on the power play. He pots you 25 a season. Great. Now, I didn't like the idea of a Craig Smith player being the guy that got hyped up as much as Tolvanen got hyped up. But he's a whole hell of a lot better than Craig Smith. I mean, he is a first-line winger. You got Forsberg on the first line. You've got Tolvanen on the first line. I mean, those are first-line guys. So after all the money that David Poile has spent on guys like Matt Duchene, like Ryan Johansson, trying to pay them like they're a big boy forward when they're not, or all the draft picks they have made hoping that guys could become big boy forwards, or whether it was Fiala, whether it was Radulov, whether it was you name it. Even David Legwand, good forward, not a big boy. Is Ellie Tolvanen on his way to becoming a big boy forward? Adam Vingan was on this morning on Robbie and Rex Road, and he was asked about Tolvanen, and here's what he said.
I'm slightly surprised by how productive he has been. Certainly we expected him to contribute at some level, but I didn't expect to see him contribute at this level. And, we've had a ton of conversations about Ellie Tolvanen over the past couple of years. And, as a society, we have grown accustomed to instant gratification. And the idea of having to wait for anything is just so unappealing. Like, you don't have to get off your couch to order something from Amazon or to order a pizza. Like, you can just sit there on your big fat butt, like I do sometimes, and just get what you want immediately. But I think what's been so exciting and satisfying to watch about Ellie Tolvanen this season is that it didn't happen immediately. It required him to take the time to learn how to be a more well-rounded player. It required him to spend basically two full seasons in the American Hockey League. And, now that patience and hard work is being rewarded.
Now, some of that I blame on the Predators. This idea that, hey, Tolvanen wasn't ready, and now Tolvanen is, I don't totally buy. Dante Fabro hasn't been ready for the last 2 seasons, but they're running him out there, and they're letting him make mistakes at the NHL level to learn and be ready. And you can tell Fabro's playing better. Tolvanen, I don't even think the Predators thought was going to be this good after the initial star and the Olympics and everything. Like, once the star didn't, I don't think they thought he was going to be this good. But have you seen how much better he's gotten? Even since the start of this year, how much better he's gotten. The talent is there. The talent has always been there. The speed, the shot, the release, the backhand last night. You don't teach that. I wonder, is he the guy? Does he have the talent to become a big boy forward? They need one desperately. When you win the cup, think about the teams that win the cups. Pittsburgh, back-to-back cups, it wasn't because of Matt Murray. Crosby, Malkin, Taves, Kane, Ovechkin, Tarasenko, Bergeron, Marchand, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog. Those are the guys in the league. Those are the guys you need. And while 3 months ago, nobody would have said that we would have expected Ellie Tolvanen to come in here and be a big boy forward, I just asked the question, is he on his way? 615-737-1025, calls and texts, 615-737-1025. Is it just a hot streak? Is he on a heater? We've seen Philip Forsberg, and I love Forsberg. And I think, Tolvanen's floor is probably Forsberg. But can he be better? We've seen Forsberg go on a heater and carry the team. Is Tolvanen on a heater, or is this what he is? 615-737-1025. We'll get your Preds thoughts in next. Stillman and Company, we're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com, ESPN 1025 The Game. By the way, let me tell everybody out there, it's always important. We got a big announcement coming up at 5:30 today, and we've got Roman Josi joining the show at 5 o'clock. Everybody knows how much I love telling the fine folks out there about Robbie and Rex Road. And yes, I listen every day. When Adam Gingen was on Robbie and Rex Road, he today said, Jared Stillman is DMing me while I'm on. Tune into Robbie and Rex Road every weekday morning at 8:45 when the Predators have a weekday game this season for your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click and win a prize pack brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. Your next chance to participate is tomorrow morning. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game. We're streaming in the Game Nashville app.
Now down the right side, breaking in, Tolvanen, he scores! Tolvanen puts it away upstairs, and the Predators win in overtime, 3-2. Ellie Tolvanen with the game-winning goal, his 9th of the year.
We don't often see the backhand in your repertoire. How many goals have you scored off the backhand versus the other shots that you have in your disposal?
I think only 2, both in Nashville, my first goal, and today. So I haven't used it a lot, and probably won't use it again in next 2 games or next 10 games. Let's see.
Ellie Tolvanen with the backhand last night. Let me say, I was worried when he started to light it up a little bit, and we started to say, hey, Tolvanen's pretty good. When he started playing like that, I was like, hey, at some point, somebody's going to take that one-timer from the half wall away from him. Now he's got a backhand? He's got that backhand? Okay, now. I think the more comfortable he gets, the more superstar-ish you're going to see him play. And that's why I keep wondering, does he have big boy forward potential? Somebody looked at me like I was crazy when I said Flores Forsberg. Forsberg's a good player, but he's not a big boy forward because he's not consistent enough. Even in some of these playoff runs, he'll have great games, he'll have great runs, and then sometimes he'll disappear. By the way, T-Mobile and ESPN 102.5 The Game are giving you and 3 friends the chance to win a stay-and-play experience at Hermitage Golf Course. Listen in today at 4:15 for the keyword to text into the game text line at 615-737-1025. More details at thegamenashville.com contest page. Let's go to your phones. Text her into the text line. And our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says Paul Correa was a big boy forward. Come on now. Was Paul Correa, when he was with the Predators, was he really a big boy forward still at that point? He kind of was.
When he first signed, it was their biggest free agent signing for sure.
But it didn't last. And why it didn't last is not Paul Correa's fault, and it's not David Poyle's fault, and it's not the team's fault. We know why it didn't last. So I guess what I'm saying is, your guy, Tarasenko is St. Louis's guy. Stamkos is Tampa's guy. Ovechkin is Washington's guy. McDavid is Edmonton's guy. Is that Tolvanen? Or is he just a first-line winger and you need the big boy forward to go next to him and it'll make him a superstar? That's kind of my question. Let's go to Bicycle Boy, who's up next on Tolvanen. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Jared. Here's the difference between Fabro and Tolvanen. Fabro had been playing in the U.S. in big-time college hockey, playing on U.S. regulation-size rinks with their NHL regulation-size rinks. To put it in your football terms, he looked like a NHL player. Tolvanen, when he came over here, had been playing on European rinks, which are bigger, which I love, but he was used to having way more space to operate in, and I think, I'm not sure, maybe you would know if he was, I don't even know if he was 18 yet or not when he came over, but he was scrawny and it's probably why he didn't do a whole lot defensively, because he'd gotten killed in the corners, and if he tried to go to the front of the net. That's the difference. I think he's obviously gained knowledge, but you can tell he's bigger, he's stronger, and now he can use those skills, and he's right up there with the size of other NHL players.
So I'm not disagreeing with any of that, and I appreciate your call. What I would say is that, when Ellie Tolvanen's going up there against grown men and lighting it up in the Olympics, that tells me that you can play. And if you can play, you can play. And they signed him to a contract where they couldn't send him to Milwaukee. They weren't as concerned about the European ice as it seems like they ended up being. I'm not saying that Tolvanen didn't need to develop. I watched Dante Fabro last year, and I thought he should have been in Milwaukee or on the third pair. I thought the third pair with Dan Hamhuis, where he was in the playoffs in 2019, was probably where Dante Fabro should have been last year. And even now, Dante Fabro still makes mistakes, but you can see him getting better. Same with Tolvanen. I think that they didn't really believe, I don't want to say that they didn't believe in Tolvanen. I think that they had dimmed their hopes that Tolvanen wasn't going to be this, that their expectations had lowered on Ellie Tolvanen, that he wasn't a superstar kind of player. Right now, he's playing like a superstar. I think it's all convenient, right, to sit there and say, oh, he had to take all the time to develop in Milwaukee. He needed it. You're telling me he couldn't have played on the bubble team? Last year's bubble team. You're telling me he couldn't have played on it. I got, Robbie Stanley and I got into this the other day. Or I say the other day, this morning. We were texting back and forth. And I'm like, last year, again, armchair general manager, I wanted to trade Mikhail Granlund and Craig Smith at the deadline. And I honestly would have taken anything that anybody would have offered me. I would have taken it. So, for example, I think we were all hoping and holding out. Smith was on a heater. I think we were hoping for a second-round pick for Craig Smith. I've been told that they got offered nowhere near a second-round pick for Smith. But if I had been offered a fourth-round pick for Smith, I would have dealt him. If I had been offered a fourth-round pick for Granlund, I would have dealt him. Now, I'm not dealing Granlund for a fourth-round pick, but if you offer me a second-round pick for Granlund, I'm probably taking it. But the reason I say this is because Robbie Stanley said something, well, they had a lot of different forwards on the team the last 2 years. They probably didn't have a spot for Eeli Tolvanen. And I would agree that when Tolvanen would come up in spurts, he'd be on like the third line or the fourth line. He's not a third or fourth line player. He's an offensive player. I would have dealt Smith and put Tolvanen in. And then when I put Tolvanen in, I'd have said, okay, now you're learning on the fly. Just like they did with Fabro, I would have done that. And I think we would have seen the maturation process happen a little bit earlier. I think it's now like this idea that going down to Milwaukee was just perfect for Tolvanen, that it was good for Tolvanen for him to go down to Milwaukee, and it was good for him to develop, and it was like, I think that is so revisionist history, because 3 weeks ago, nobody thought he was this good. 3 years ago, we thought he was this good, but not 3 weeks ago. When he went and lit up Jokerit in the KHL, when he lit it up in the Olympics, we thought he was this good. I remember going to a morning skate when all the talk was, hey, Jokerit's out of the playoffs, Eeli Tolvanen's flying over, he might sign his deal. And I remember asking Peter Laviolette about Tolvanen. And, Laviolette and I had to, kind of a good cop, bad cop relationship. And he would say, oh, I got my spokesperson here. And Nick Barnowski, the PR guy for the Predators, would sit there and would read a prepared statement about the process with Tolvanen. And then I try to ask it again. And so Peter and I were kind of going back and forth. But the hype that was surrounding Eeli Tolvanen was through the roof. We had Floyd Reese, a 70-year-old NFL general manager, talking about an 18-year-old kid playing in the KHL. We were following Jokerit's playoff game against whoever it was. I think it was Putin's team. Like either the team that Putin owns or the team that Putin roots for. But we were following that playoff game, thinking that if they were playing Vladimir Putin's team, that, they'd probably get all the benefit of the calls. And knowing what we know about Putin, that's probably the case. Texter to the text line says, Jared, I won't think this team has turned a corner until they lose, and I see how they rebound after a loss. I think that's a good point. I think certainly, if they lose tomorrow to Dallas, and Dallas, I will give them credit because they played their butts off. If they lose tomorrow to Dallas, I would agree that we will sit back and say, okay, now how do they respond against Chicago? How do they respond against Detroit? I agree. But I'm not going to sit there and say that a loss would be good for them. I mean, I say keep the heater going as long as you can keep it going. Caleb texts into the text line and says, the Preds are playing better hockey now, but Willie says they can't clear the zone more than I have ever heard before. That has to change if they want any chance at making the playoffs. I mean, I don't sit there with a pad and a pen and write down how many times Willie Donick says they can't clear the zone watching the broadcast. I haven't seen that been an issue. I will agree. Crispy was on the show last week, and Crispy was talking about clearly they're not totally there yet with what Coach Hines wants them to do defensively. And I said, Crispy, what makes you say that? And he said, how many times do you listen to the game and hear Willie say, great save Soros, great save Rene, great save Soros? I said, okay, that's a fair point. But I think they're doing a good job. I think they're doing a good job taking the puck and getting it through the neutral zone. And it's not a defenseman, which is not what John Hines wants. It's not some defenseman just coming right through the zone, carrying the mail. I mean, it's kind of more a team effort. I like what I see. as far as getting the puck out of the zone, getting the puck into the other team's zone. I like it. I think their puck play has been decent. Hadn't been great, but I think it's been decent.
Definitely been much better.
Much better. I mean, do you remember when they played Tampa Bay here and they lost 4-1, but Rene was fantastic and left the game with an empty net, and they scored 2 to make it 4-1 on a Monday night?
I mean, there were times where they would be just stuck in the defensive zone for long, extreme periods of time, and you knew it was just only a matter of time before the other team was able to cash in. Now you can at least see them pressure the puck a little bit more. They're not just sitting back in a complete shell. They're at least putting some pressure on and forcing the other team to do something and not just pass it around all leisurely.
Oh, sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think it's night and day. So, again, you want to talk about whether or not they can do that against Tampa. That is a totally fair point. But let's get there first. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, David Poyle yesterday talked about the idea of playing Tampa, if that's what ends up happening. What do we think about the idea of playing Tampa in the playoffs? Do we feel better about it now that they're doing what they're doing? 615-737-1025. Plus, of course, we will go to your phones and your texts. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. They take great care of me. They are proud supporters of the Predators through thick and thin. Hiller is giving away a free vacation for you and your family, not just this month, but they've extended it into next month. This has been so popular. All of you guys are calling Hiller right off the bat because you want these free vacations. They're extending it another month. With every purchase of a new whole home generator or select new HVAC systems, Hiller is giving you a free week-long vacation. With every purchase of a new tankless water heater, Hiller is giving you a free weekend-long vacation. And Hiller will pay for your gas with a $100 gas card. Choose from over 400 Marriott, Wyndham, Hilton, or Hyatt hotel properties. Take advantage of this unbelievable deal while you can. These deals are only available for a limited time, so make sure you schedule today. Visit happyhiller.com for all of the details. As always, happy you'll be, or the service is free. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, proud supporters of the Vols and the Preds. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Roman, there's obviously been a lot of talk about you guys for a while now heading into the trade deadline. And I'm curious, with this run you're on now and the fight you guys are showing, I mean, how much of that is a desire to want to keep this core that you've had for so many years intact to be able to still win with the guys you've had for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we've been together a long time as a core, and have a lot of belief in this core. You never want to see a guy leave with a trade, and yeah, like you said, we've been playing really well, and I think so many guys have stepped up and played great, and yeah, like I said, I love our core. We've been through a lot together, and obviously, like I said, we've been playing really well. So yeah, hopefully we can keep that up.
Roman, Josi, they want to keep the group together because, let me say this, when they went on that road trip, and I left them for dead. I mean, again, Ian and I, we talked about this earlier today. Got to give Hal Gill a little credit. Even though it is very, very difficult for me to give Hal credit, I got to give Hal a little credit because Hal Gill did say, he said, hey, they're going out there, they're trying to win some games. They're trying, and I'm like, okay, you're going to go into Tampa Bay and try to win without Josi, Ellis, Cunnin, trying to think of who else
Duchesne.
was that. Duchesne. I mean, you're going to try to go Saros. You're going to try and win those games. And Hal was like, yeah. And I'll give him credit because so far they've done it. I mean, if they had gotten just pulverized like they did on that Saturday when I was in Puerto Rico at the very beginning of the month, they got pulverized on a Saturday at home against Florida. If that had happened in those games out there, I mean, it might not even be, hey, Roman, how much do you want to keep the core together? It's, hey, Roman, how many guys are still going to be here when you stay here through all of this at the end of next month? That's how drastic this change has been. David Poyle was on the midday show yesterday. The one thing that I would be a little cautious about is outside of that one great win on a Monday night against Tampa, and, you know, some of the way that they played, Saros stole a game for them against the Florida Panthers, I believe, and they went to overtime with Carolina. I mean, they've played some good hockey, but they've really picked up these wins against Detroit and Columbus and Chicago and Dallas and teams that aren't great, which means that you could perhaps see the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, a team that is much, 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 much better than the teams that you've been beating. That makes me a little cautious about getting so excited about a possible playoff berth. David Poyle, when deciding whether or not to buy or sell, was asked by Chase yesterday about the idea on Darren Donick and Chase of, you know, do you take this with a grain of salt, knowing that the Tampa Bay Lightning are probably awaiting if you're the 4 seed?
Tampa Bay is Stanley Cup winner, so is maybe I'll answer your thought process where you think of it. Just getting in the playoffs and playing Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay being the favorite, heavy favorite in that series. Is that reason to be happy? Is it a reason not to make any trades? Again, I have to think about all of those things. I can tell you, I don't think that's a reason for not doing anything. I don't think it's something that would paralyze me, if you will. I think we're still looking to improve. I have no false illusions here that a disappointing start to the season. I think we're recovering. We're finding out a lot about our team. We're inserting a lot of younger players in our lineup, and we're having good success with them. But I do know that we have to get better to get to where we ultimately want to go, and that's to be able to say that we have a chance to compete for the Stanley Cup. So, again, there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made here in the next couple of weeks, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we learn something every day, and certainly hoping that we play well and win against Dallas tonight, and that will kind of solidify some of my thought process. A loss probably takes us in a little bit different direction. So all I can tell you is stay tuned.
So they did win last night, and I like the non-committal aspect because there's no way to feel about it. I mean, if you want them to buy, or I shouldn't say buy, if you want them to stand pat and you want them not to do anything, well, there's probably not a definite answer there. And if you want them to sell, there was certainly not a definite answer. They did win, but he acknowledges how good Tampa is. He knows. So I wonder if that is playing into his mind when everybody says, hey, Jared, you wanted him to sell. What do you think now? I say back to it like, okay, but is he kind of thinking, this run's nice, but it's Tampa. Texter into the text line says, I'm only a 5-year NHL fan because that's how long I've lived in Nashville. Tolvanen is awesome to watch, and he makes me like the NHL, especially the Predators, because it's fun. The dude is good. Let me say this. The Predators and the way they went to the Cup final, great goaltending, good defense, rough you up, physical. When it's your team and you're winning in the playoffs, it's fun. Any team, you could win. I mean, the Titans, everybody wants to win by throwing the ball up and down the field. Everybody wants to be the Kansas City Chiefs. But when the Titans went to the AFC title game, running the ball with Derrick Henry and playing defense, I think everybody felt pretty good about that team and enjoyed watching that team. And in fact, I think we can all agree, we enjoy watching Derrick Henry run it for 5 yards at a time. But everybody would prefer to throw the ball up and down the football field. That's why offensive coordinators that do that get about 7 chances as head coaches. Mike Munchak gets 1 shot. He's an offensive line guy. He's not an exciting move the ball up and down the field. Everybody likes the guys who score goals, who are electric. I love, when as a season ticket holder of the Predators in a normal year, there are certain games that I'm going to. When Connor McDavid in Edmonton shows up, I'm going. When Ovechkin in Washington shows up, I'm there. Minnesota, 3rd time this year, 3rd time in a month they played Minnesota at home. Ian, you want my tickets? Like that's how I feel about a game like that. It's like it's not to say everybody wants to see the guys who are up and down the ice, and I think there's something to that with Tolvanen that is very exciting. Texter says guys have accepted their new roles and they're buzzing. For example, Sissons, a 4th-line center, and Arvidsson being more of a setup guy because we've all learned that he can't score. I think there's something to that. I mean, some guys are just on heaters too. Like let's keep it real. Calle Jarnkrok is on a heater right now. I mean, this is, I go back to the people that are like, oh, we don't want to sell. And it's like, Ian, what do you think Jarnkrok fetches right now on the market? Or how much more do you think a team would be willing to add Jarnkrok right now for a stretch run, considering how hot he is and how versatile he is compared to maybe any other tenure in his time as a Predator?
Yeah, that's probably fair. This would probably be his highest selling point, I would think, so far as a Pred.
There were probably 2 different times where I looked at it, I said, man, Calle Jarnkrok is special. This, and then right before he got hurt at the end of the 2018 season, and I still don't think that's talked enough about, the dirty hit he took from Winnipeg that knocked him out for the rest of the season.
I think it was Kopp. I think
it was Kopp. Yeah, Andrew Kopp, I think, hit him. But, I mean, Jarnkrok's on a heater. Sometimes guys are just on heaters. I hope, I know Jarnkrok's on a heater. I hope Tolvanen is not on a heater. I hope this is how he plays.
Yeah, Jarnkrok is valuable in that he can play up and down in the lineup, right? I mean, they move him to the second line. He's taken Forsberg's spot on the power play right now since he's that right-handed shot. And he's a great penalty killer. So he's very versatile, and his contract is extremely manageable at $2 million. So
Texter into the text line. I love the $2 million, by the way. And that's why, to me, it was all a numbers game between him and James Neal. One guy had term, one guy was younger, one guy was less money, and to me, that was simple. Texter says, Tolvanen, Carrier, Cunnin are all playing hungry like we haven't seen in a long time. That comes from Carey. I would agree. I mean, I think that certainly, I think it's hard to argue that the young guys and the whole team, that they haven't at least a little bit kind of re-energized all of us. Not just the players, not just the team, but really re-energized all of us for what they've been able to do. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Basketball, we've got the Final Four set. Those games yesterday, those were weird games. But UCLA, Michigan, I tell you what, that was an ugly game. But we got our Final Four. I'll give you my thoughts on it next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman and Company. We're delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025, the game.
Enough for a catch and shoot. Dickinson will put it in. There's the catch. Here's the shot. Wagner off the glass. No! Oh! It's over! And UCLA from the first four to the Final Four.
They're a 1 seed for a reason. The Big Ten get, 10 teams in a tournament, and they dominated the conference for the most part. So to find a way to beat them with defense, the way we did tonight, obviously extremely proud of our team. But yeah, it was just resilience. Stats are for losers, they say, right? You either win or you lose. So I think that stat sheet can get crumbled up tonight.
There you go, UCLA on their way to the Final freaking Four. So I'll be honest, I barely even watched the first game. Gonzaga, USC. Gonzaga is dominant. Gonzaga is awesome. Gonzaga's going to win the tournament. Gonzaga's got a great coach. Gonzaga's got a great program. Gonzaga's in a depressing city as far as the weather's concerned, but a great casino out there in Spokane. But like Gonzaga, they're awesome. They just crushed you. They just totally dominated USC. Okay, that game's out of the way. Last night's Michigan-UCLA game. I got 3 thoughts. Ian, I think all 3 thoughts are valid. To me, they all mean a much. The first one, though, the Big Ten. What a joke. The Big Ten. I don't want to hear Joe Rexrode say something stupid like I heard the other day when he said, this tournament, Illinois is certainly good enough to win this tournament, or Ohio State could still be playing, even though they're not. The best teams in the Big Ten. Ohio State lost to Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago. Ohio State lost to 15th-seeded Oral Roberts. And Michigan last night, a team I thought Michigan was for real. Michigan choked it away against 11th-seeded UCLA. What a choke job. What an unmitigated disaster from the Big Ten. What a joke. I know that we shouldn't sit there, and next year, all of those bracket gurus that watch college basketball in November will tell us things like, they'll say, well, all of this has got to be independent of last year. No. In college football, if a team represented itself as poorly as the Big Ten represented itself in this tournament, we would definitely dock them. Maybe not, tangibly, maybe not say, we got to take this into consideration. They screwed up last year, but it would certainly be there mentally.
Iowa, disappointing. Purdue lost in the first round to North Texas. So you take your pick.
And not only that, to your point, Ian, Michigan choked so bad last night.
They could not hit anything, huh?
They couldn't make a shot in the last 5 minutes of the game.
That one big lefty guy. Yeah, that one big lefty dude was just chucking them in and banking them. It's keeping them in the game.
Awful. Michigan should wake up tonight or this morning. They should wake up sick to their stomachs because they so choked that game away. Just awful. Number 2, UCLA. What's the old Garth Brooks song say? Sometimes some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. Do you remember 2 years ago, only two, UCLA couldn't find a coach. They needed a coach. They couldn't find a coach. Rick Barnes, they offered all that money to Rick Barnes, and he turned them down and stayed at Tennessee. Well, we all know Rick Barnes, and I still think he's probably as good or better than Mick Cronin, but Rick Barnes doesn't even know how to spell Final Four. The last time Rick Barnes got to the Final Four, I was in the 7th grade. Rick Barnes and Final Four do not go together. Rick Barnes, that Josh Bone, or Jordan Bone, Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams, that team 10 times better than this UCLA team. And here's UCLA, and when they were dancing and putting their hats and T-shirts on, all I could think about is, remember how they almost hired Rick Barnes? Remember how they almost hired a perpetual pants scrapper in the month of March in Rick Barnes. And everybody turned him down. That UCLA job, Mick Cronin was like the 14th choice. When's the last time the 14th choice worked out? That's like if in 3 years Brian Harshin has Auburn in the college football playoff. And here's Mick Cronin and UCLA in the Final Four. And thank God we have a blue blood, a good program in UCLA that's in there, although they're going to get wiped out by Gonzaga. The third thought, John Calipari. What are you doing? I mean, UCLA's best player, Johnny Juzang, was on Kentucky, and it didn't work out. And I think this is the thing that Cal struggles with. Charles Matthews was a guy who went into Kentucky and was supposed to be all that and wasn't, ended up transferring to Michigan, had a nice little career. Kyle Wiltshire was a guy who went to Kentucky, had a good 2 years at Kentucky, transferred to Gonzaga, got more playing time, had a nice career. Calipari, the brand is so strong for the one and done for him that if you're not Karl Anthony Towns and you don't become Devin Booker, a guy who's a 4-year player who decided to go to the NBA after 1 year because he was such a star and is now a superstar in the NBA, if you're not that kind of player, it doesn't work for you at Kentucky. If you can't play right away, you will not play at Kentucky. And I think Calipari, he's wanted to recruit guys to be multi-year players, but it almost never happens. And Johnny Juzang, I think that is an example of a guy who Calipari, kind of soured on. And clearly he soured on Calipari in Kentucky. He goes to UCLA, and now he's leading them to the Final Four. So if I'm Calipari, I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? I can barely field a basketball team this year, and there's my guy that I recruited to UK who's taken UCLA to the Final Four. That would bother me very, very much if I was Calipari. Now, let me say this. Baylor and Houston, I don't know who's going to win. I'm not sure I care who's going to win. The Final Four lacks star power. It lacks juice. If Michigan had made it, then we could at least talk ourselves into Michigan versus Gonzaga, power team versus power team, good coach versus good coach, recognizable basketball program versus recognizable basketball program, which we'll get that with UCLA and Gonzaga, but it's just not the same. Gonzaga's going to slaughter UCLA. Baylor, Houston, whatever, they'll lose to Gonzaga. And I just, those coaches for Baylor and Houston, they're not all that interesting. Like, yeah, Kelvin Sampson had a little bit of a brush with cheating, but they're just not all that interesting. So I hope we have a good Final Four. I'll watch the Final Four just like I watched the Elite Eight. But I don't think, now imagine if Mick Cronin and UCLA wins the national championship. Then you will talk about, hey, how lucky do you guys feel that you didn't hire Rick Barnes? Remember, they wanted Rick Barnes. And 2 years later, they're in the Final Four. And that, by the way, should be something that every program, every sport in college sports, when you're a football program in the SEC and you don't get your first wish for a coach and then 2 years just run the guy out of town, maybe you should look at UCLA basketball. They didn't get their first choice for coach. I talked with a guy in the NBA 3 weeks ago. Not even 2 weeks ago. I talked with a guy in the NBA. Was in town in Nashville, driving through. And he told me, he goes, man, Mick Cronin is an average coach. And I didn't fire anything back because what would I say to that? I don't know if he's right or wrong. But I'll give Mick Cronin this. He's doing things Rick Barnes can't do right now. He's doing things Rick Barnes hasn't done in almost 20 years. And that UCLA wanted Rick Barnes. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We've got a lot of NFL to get to, pro days, and the 17th game. Why is there controversy surrounding the 17th game? Why do people not like the 17th game? We'll discuss that next. Stillman and Company, we're delivered by TriStar, moving right here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Guess what? Let me tell the fine folks out there, go ahead and get your text and phones out. Because, well, I think it's time to text. ESPN and T-Mobile have teamed up to help you continue the tradition with a hockey home gating party. It's time to text into the game text line at 615-737-1025 for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate. Watch a weekend Preds game with a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing Bundt Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. Just text the word SKATE to 615-737-1025 now to enter. The winner will be contacted on Thursday. You must be 21 or older to enter. Stillman and Company were delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. Roman Josi, Preds captain, in 1 hour at 5 o'clock. And we've got a big announcement, 5:30. So we are loaded. Predators on a heater, 6 in a row, back in the playoffs. And everybody is just buzzing with how well this team is playing. So I was listening to Robbie and Rexroad this morning, Ian, and I was listening
Good show.
to Joe. What's that?
Good show. Weekday morning, 6 to 10 right here.
So,
everybody needs to listen.
I'm not going to say that it's a good show, but I mean, I do listen every day, right? Like I literally do come on the show and say, I was listening to Robbie and Rexroad this morning, and and if you listen to the show every day, you must like it, right?
I would think so.
But I don't want to give Joe, Robbie does a great job. I don't want to give Joe the satisfaction with all those terrible takes. I don't want to give Joe the satisfaction of me saying that he has got me entertained. It should be noted that when I was in Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico is 2 hours ahead of us. And so I'd be working out, and you had to reserve the workout room at the hotel because of COVID. They could only have so many people in there at one time. It was a nice workout room, nice resort. But you could only have so many people in there at one time. So everybody would book up like 9:30, 8:30, 10 o'clock. And I'm the kind of guy when I'm on vacation, like I just want to get into the workout room, get the workout done, and get on with vacation for the rest of the day. So I would go in there at 7 a.m. every morning we were in Puerto Rico. And that's 5 a.m. local time. So I'd really wake up at 7, and then I'd go down to the front desk to get the key for the workout room at like 7:38, and then I'd be in there at like 7:45, which again is 5:45 local time, Nashville. And I was working out, and I was listening to music or a podcast or something. It just wasn't doing it for me. And I listened to Robbie and Rexroad, and I'm sitting there working out in Puerto Rico, and I'm texting Robbie, and I'm texting Joe, and I'm like almost like, oh my God, I need to put this down. I'm listening. I'm listening to this show. I'm on vacation. I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm on the island. It's 85 degrees. It's nice. And here I am being like, this is what I think, Joe. But that does not stop me now from doing that when I listen every day. So I'm listening, and there was a promo we're running where Joe's like, the NFL's going to add a 17th game. I hate the NFL. And apparently Joe was complaining all morning about the NFL adding a 17th game. Can I ask the question, who doesn't like the 17th game other than Joe? Other than Joe, who wants to talk college basketball in December, who believes that Jadeveon Clowney was the piece for the 2020 Titans, other than Joe, who doesn't like the 17th game? I know there are some players out there that don't want to play an extra game, but think about all your bars and restaurants in your city that are probably glad you're getting a 17th game. Think about everybody who was crushed by the pandemic because they couldn't work. When all the sports were shelved, they couldn't work concert venues and big sports games and serve food and work as parking attendants and pour drinks and everything else that a lot of people make a lot of money during the year doing. Think about the 17th game for them. Think about the TV networks. Think about the kids that love the NFL that get to watch an extra game. Think about the teams that may not be very good, but at least get hope that their season is going to last one extra game. And then there's Joe Rexroad, who doesn't like it. Speaking of players, Chris Sanders was on our show earlier today. Former NFL player. I mean, he's got the bumps and the bruises to prove it. He was on our show earlier today. I asked him, how would you feel about playing a 17th game?
That means an extra check. Heck yeah. No, I mean, listen, and this is just me. I'm not going to, try to act like I'm Mr. Big and all this stuff. But if I love football, Jared, I grew up playing football, and my dream was to play in the NFL, and my dream was to catch touchdowns, and my dream was to play in the NFL. If they ask me to have a 17th game, why wouldn't I? That's my dream. That's what I love to do. That's what I've been trained to do all my life. So why should I pout and be like, man, we got another 17 game? I understand the risk of getting hurt, but so stinking what? I worked hard to get here, so add 2 more games. I wouldn't care. Why? Because I'm absolutely in love with the game, Jared.
I mean, who's that? So we got a former player that's saying, I would love the 17th game. So I need somebody to tell me what's wrong with the 17th game. It is in the collective bargaining agreement that they can't go to an 18th game until at least 2023, I believe, or 2031 is, I think, the year that they can't go to an 18th game. So this idea that it's going to become like baseball, where if you had 17th game, every game's not going to matter. I mean, they're not going to add more than 17 anytime soon, because there's the idea that if you go 17, why not 18? Why not 20? Why not? Okay, I'm not that guy. I know, it's like baseball wants to add all these playoff spots. Why? Why? Everybody already makes the playoffs in the NBA. That's why the first round of the NBA playoffs suck. Nobody wants to see that. But, again, why should I be against the 17th game? And then I got this. Did you see this from Seth Wickersham? I thought it was Adam Schefter, but apparently it's Seth Wickersham. The Chicago Bears voted against the 17th game. So every owner in the NFL got a vote on playing 17 games. The Raiders, who consistently vote against the interest of the NFL, because that's what Al Davis always liked to do, they voted for it. Dan Snyder, who's a kook in Washington, he voted for it. The Titans voted for it. Cal McNair and Jack Esterby probably preyed on it. They voted for it. Jim Irsay, who was popping all those pills and everything else in Indianapolis, he voted for it. Shad Khan, who's spent billions and billions of dollars and hasn't done anything right, he voted for it. Stan Kroenke, who built his own stadium in L.A., and the people of St. Louis, I think, are still suing, he voted for it. All these crazy owners in the NFL. Jerry, Robert Kraft, Arthur Blank, they all voted for it, except the Chicago Bears. According to Seth Wickersham, an expanded regular season has been a goal of the NFL team owners for years, but Tuesday's vote, which approved a 17th game, wasn't unanimous among owners. Bears chairman George H. McCaskey voted against the measure, according to 4 sources who were on the video conference. Through a team spokesman, McCaskey declined to comment to ESPN. So the players, for the most part, I know we've heard a player here or there. Alvin Kamara came out and said he didn't like it. And we're going to hear some guys sit there and say they don't love it. Dominique Foxworth, who is so player-friendly on ESPN, so stand up for your rights, players, pay the players, give the players, former head of the NFLPA, who argued that Derrick Henry should have sat out last year instead of play on the franchise tag. Even he's like, well, they're going to do it and everybody's going to make more money, but there's this small fraction of guys in the league that are going to get pushed out because of it. But even he, an anti-league guy, because he's a pro-PA guy, even he's for it. Can someone explain to me what's wrong with the 17th game in the NFL? I'm dead serious. And again, I listen to Robbie and Rexroad every day. I wouldn't say I listen religiously, as in if I got something better to do or I'm still asleep, I don't listen. But if I'm in the car or if I'm, trying to figure out what's going on that day or I'm working out, I will listen to Robbie and Rexroad every morning. Joe is so against it. Why are the Bears against it? I don't see the drawback from a 17th game. I can see the counter arguments of, well, if we go to 17, then we'll eventually go to 18, 19, 20, 25 games from the NFL regular season. I don't think that's going to happen. And again, from a collective bargaining standpoint, it can't happen. It's like Thursday night football. We hear people complain about Thursday night football, but then guess what? The owners love it. They make a ton of money. There's always a TV partner for it, even though NBC doesn't want it anymore, CBS didn't want it anymore, Fox didn't want it anymore. Here comes Amazon. The owners make a ton of money. The fans love it because it gives us something to do on Thursday nights. We get to watch Thursday night football. What's the harm? What's the harm in a 17th game? So I'm glad you get the 17th game because not only do I think it benefits everybody, it gives us an extra game to talk about. It gives us an extra pregame show to host. It gives us extra money to make. It gives you extra money to make. It gives your restaurants extra money to make. It gives your bars extra money to make. It gives your stadium workers extra money to make. You're also going to get super primetime matchups that you don't normally get. For example, you're going to get the best team this year in the AFC West is the Kansas City Chiefs. The best team last year in the NFC West was the Seattle Seahawks. So now you get Mahomes versus Wilson, a game that you would have to wait 4 years to watch. You're going to get at least 4 super matchups every year that you wouldn't normally have gotten when the first place team from the AFC plays the first place team from the NFC. You'll also get a couple of super matchups when the second place team, Tampa Bay, plays a second place team that has a ton of interest in Indianapolis. Brady goes back to the Dome. Big game. That is a Sunday night football caliber game. Tampa Bay at Indianapolis. There are other games. Dallas, New England this year is an interconference matchup game. AFC East, NFC East, both finished in, I think, third place. I think second place, third place.
Third place, yep.
Both finished in third place. Dallas goes to New England this year. We had that game 2 years ago. We'd have to wait another 2 years to get a Dallas-New England game. We're going to get one this year. That, again, is a Sunday night football caliber game. So we're getting super matchups. Everybody's making more money. Fans are going to spend more money. I saw a report, I forget who reported it, the Titans are not even going to raise season tickets even though there's an extra game this year. What's not to like about the 17th game? I tell you, to me, I love the 17th game. And I maybe Joe Rexroad is just a hater.
Do you make of anything? I heard Joe make this argument about how it changes the stats since they're based on 16 versus 17.
Oh,
and how
God.
that how can tweak stuff.
Oh, God. Okay, so didn't they used to play like 14 games and 6 preseason games?
Yeah, back in I guess it's been since the 70s.
Well, somebody call Otto Graham. Somebody call Sid Luckman. Somebody call, oh my God.
I've heard that argument used. So
But who cares about NFL stats? Like, I know that, when Tom Brady sets a record, it's like, oh my God, great. But like, who cares? The NFL doesn't care about stats. The NBA doesn't care about stats. The NHL doesn't care about stats. The only sport that cares about stats is baseball, and they've already screwed up all their stats by taking steroids anyways. Like, who cares? Oh my God, stats. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Pro days galore. LSU, Florida. Somebody else had a big pro day today. Ohio State had theirs yesterday. Alabama had their second one yesterday. Pro days galore. Are we reading too much into them? We'll get to that coming up. 615-737-1025. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. Stillman & Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Well, look, you've been around a bunch of talented guys, your career at Alabama. And as we assess this quarterback class of draft prospects, some seriously talented dudes in this group as well. Where do you feel like your skill set fits in with some of these top guys that we're going to hear their names called with yours on April 29th?
Yeah, I think it's a really good QB class, and I try not to pay too much attention to it and just focus on myself. But there's some ballers out there, and I've got a chance to watch a lot of their tape, and they're great players. But I'm a different player. I just I do what I'm supposed to do my job, and do it to the best of my ability. So I always say, if you want me to throw the bubble pass, I'll throw the bubble pass. If you want me to hit it deep, I'll hit it deep. So I'm just going to do what the coach tells me and execute the offense.
There you go. That was Mac Jones, Alabama quarterback, Alabama Pro Day. They apparently had two. I think that was the first one. Pro days, Justin Fields yesterday ran a 4.40, and they were like, yo, Justin Fields is fast, which, Trevor Maddich was on the show talking about how he thinks Fields would be a great fit for Kyle Shanahan and be a great fit for San Francisco at 3 after he ran that 40, and I'm like, who cares what the quarterback runs for a 40 time? I don't care what Josh Allen's 40 time was. To me, like Ryan Tannehill's the exact amount of fast that I want in a quarterback. He's fast enough, he's athletic enough, but he's not a runner. If your quarterback's going to be Lamar Jackson, then yeah, I guess it matters what his 40 time is. But I think even the other running quarterbacks, they had a list of the best 40 times for quarterbacks, and none of them were good. None of the quarterbacks they put up, there's RG3 and I don't care about that. The second thing is, the combine is always the most sterile environment. That was something Floyd always used to talk about, was that he could believe a 40 time at the combine. He could believe a weight at the combine. He could believe a height at the combine. He could believe all of those things because at the combine, it was all basically independently run by the NFL. The colleges run the pro days. That's all we have this year other than the 150 players that will go to Indianapolis, I believe, next week in order to get medical checkups. But they're not running a 40. They're not doing the cone drill. They're not being thrown passes. And I hear out of every pro day, oh my goodness, hey, what a great pro day. What an awesome pro day. Awesome pro day. What a great pro day for Jamar Chase at LSU. What an unbelievable pro day, Kyle Pitts at Florida. What a great pro day. Did you see that throw Zach Wilson made at BYU's pro day? Oh, Trey Lance was on fire at his pro day. Who cares? Again, I think it's important if you opted out, if you've got an injury, if you're a DB or a wide receiver, and I want to see how fast your 40 time is, if I can trust your 40 time. But honestly, who cares about what you do at a pro day? Teddy Bridgewater had a horrible pro day. It dropped him in the NFL draft. Bridgewater may not be the best quarterback in the world. Clearly, Carolina's trying to move on from him, but he's like a 10-year NFL guy. So the pro day, who cares? And I understand it's all we have to go off of. It's not the combine. And I don't think anybody treats it like the combine. You run a 4.35 at the combine, everybody's like, woo, that guy's fast. You run it in your pro day, nobody's ever felt the same way about a combine as they have a pro day. I want to say it was Jamal Adams a couple years ago, didn't run a great 40 time, and then he went to his pro day, and he just blew him out of the water, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, whatever. So, again, there's going to be a lot of talk about pro days. There's going to be a lot of debate. There's going to be a lot of things thrown around. Well, guess what? At his pro day, he benched 225 17 times. Okay, he's a punter. Who cares? So there's going to be a lot of that, but unless you're a wide receiver or a DB and you ran a 40, and even then, I have to be a little skeptical of your 40 because it's not the combine, or you opted out last year, Caleb Farley, Jamar Chase, those kind of players, I just don't. The pro days, I'll watch them on TV because it gives me something to do, but it's just not as exciting. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Craig says, how will the NFL standings work if there is a tie within a division and not all teams are playing the same teams with a new 17-game schedule? Let me say this. Not everybody plays the same teams now. For example, the Titans next year will have to play, I believe, the number 1 team in the AFC West, Kansas City, and the number 1 team in the AFC North, Pittsburgh. So you get to play Kansas City, Indianapolis gets to play the Raiders. Who wins? Okay? So it's never always equal to begin with. I'm not worried about tie-breaking procedures. I am a little worried about ties, or I am a little worried about, the 8 and 9 now will get you in the playoffs, maybe with 7 playoff teams. Maybe I'm a little worried about that. But the idea that a 17th game is going to ruin the who makes the playoffs, what about the ties, the unfair schedule? I will say this. In most years, like the Titans get a little break because Indianapolis has to play Tampa Bay. The Titans get to play New Orleans, they're not going to be the same team without Drew Brees. Tampa is literally the same team that just won the Super Bowl. So it kind of evens out. You have to play Kansas City. Indianapolis has to play Tampa Bay. But some years, it's going to wreck somebody. When they have to play, for example, they'll have to play Buffalo, Kansas City, and Green Bay because of the way this is going. That will wreck somebody because those are 3 games that the second place team is going to play the Raiders, the Vikings or the Bears. Yeah, the Raiders, the Bears, and the Dolphins. And that's a lot different. But again, that's part of it. The NFL, and we've said this time and time again, the NFL is a socialist government. Everybody needs to be the same. The best team gets the worst pick. The worst team gets the easiest schedule. Everybody wants to be 8-8. They have a salary cap. That's how the league is designed. I guess it's not 8-8 anymore. So what is the definition of average? 8-7? 8-9?
Probably.
9-8? Like if you're Jeff Fisher, what's the target?
Well, if you're Jeff Fisher, the target is definitely 9-8.
9-8? Okay. That would make sense. JD texts into the text line. One thing I've never understood about pro days, who cares how fast you can run in hardly any clothes? Suit up in full pads and then show me something. So, Ian, I don't know. What did you think? Because I felt like Floyd always cared about the 40 time at the combine.
Well, I think for certain positions he would like to see the 40 time. Like he talked about that with Corey Davis, right? His injury, and he was a wide receiver, and you don't really know how fast he is in the 40 on the combine. Sure. It's not gospel, but they do like to at least see that to see that you can have a little bit of get up. But I think they kind of like some of the cone drills better, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure, like DK Metcalf was horrible in his cone drills, and that scared a lot of teams off. That he was literally just a straight line receiver that could go deep.
I struggle with pro days and quarterbacks, to be honest with you. Like they're showing all these clips of Zach Wilson rolling out and just kind of chucking the ball out there. It's like it looks nice, and he's got a great arm, but he's kind of throwing to a spot, and there's no worry about anybody going in there to pick the ball off, right? So it's like, sure, he looks nice in some shorts chucking the ball, but with no defense out there, like, what are you really going to know?
So this is my theory that will never happen. But I think what they should do, they should have tried it this year with the COVID testing, is they should have take the Power 5 conferences and get a 6th team of the non-Power 5. So there's a Pac-12 team, a Big Ten team, an SEC team, an ACC team, and Big 12 team. And then a non-Power 5 team, a non-Power 5 team. And I say we play. Like, let's play ball. Like, okay, Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback. He's got a wide receiver from North Carolina. He's got a wide receiver from Louisville. He's got a wide receiver from Pittsburgh. Like, let's play.
Make it a little bit tougher on him?
Yeah. Let's play. Like the throwing at the combine is so stupid. When you see the quarterback out there in his cut-off T-shirt and his shorts and he's chucking it down the field, like, come on. Michael texts into the text line. Do you wish they had used the 17th game as a way to add more rivalries into schedules that wouldn't otherwise be on the schedule, like Ravens-Titans this coming year? No. I like the idea of the AFC playing the NFC. We don't get enough of those games. Now, I worry it's going to be like Major League Baseball where they've screwed it up with interleague play, where interleague play used to be fun. It used to be something that for 2 weeks, we'd have the American League play the National League, and then we'd get back to business. Now, it's like interleague play is nothing special in baseball anymore. I think, the Titans play the Cowboys once every 4 years. The Cowboys come here once every 8 years. If you're a Cowboy fan and you live in Nashville and you want to see the Cowboys, you got to wait once every 8 years. I would like for there to be an opportunity, not a guarantee, but an opportunity that we'll see the Dallas Cowboys here more than that. I'd like the opportunity to go to the Dallas Cowboys more than that. Go to the Green Bay Packers. That being said, there are going to be some times where you have to go to the Arizona Cardinals, and that's going to suck because no one wants to watch that. But no, I don't think the NFL should have tried to create rivalry games or anything like that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, everybody's asking this question. Roman Yossi is going to join us at 5 o'clock. Coming up next, everybody's wondering, so Jared, you still want to sell? What about all the people that wanted to sell on the Predators 3 weeks ago? What do you think? What about that? Adam Vingan had an interesting take. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Time to save cash fast with Nashville's best deals. Go to thegamenashville.com and click on the Nashville's Best Deals banner to get half off a $20 gift card from Grain & Berry in Hillsborough Village. Grain & Berry is Nashville's superfood cafe where healthy meets delicious. Stillman & Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Roman Yossi, 30 minutes. Big announcement in an hour. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Roman, there's obviously been a lot of talk about you guys for a while now heading into the trade deadline. And I'm curious, with this run you're on now and the fight you guys are showing, I mean, how much of that is a desire to want to keep this core that you've had for so many years intact to be able to still win with the guys you've had for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we've been together a long time as a core, and I have a lot of belief in this core. You never want to see a guy leave with a trade. And yeah, like you said, we've been playing really well. And I think so many guys have stepped up and played great. And yeah, like I said, I love our core. We've been through a lot together. And obviously, like I said, we've been playing really well. So yeah, hopefully we can keep that up.
Roman Josi, he will join us in just a little bit here on Stillman and Company. And there are a lot of people, I see it on Twitter, I see the fans that are now jazzed up saying, hey, Jared, you want to sell now? We had a caller who called in earlier today that said, hey, are you going to tell Roman Josi about how you wanted to sell, how you wanted to trade those guys, those core pieces? I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, 3 weeks ago, Roman, I thought you guys sucked. But I think he kind of knows that. I think it's kind of obvious that that's how a lot of us felt. And now they're on a heater. Now they are starting to win. And the one thing that I will tell you about fans is that fans always, for the most part, want to go for it. They want to go for the championship. Last year in the offseason, we knew the Titans' pass rush wasn't very good. And everybody said, Clowney, Clowney, Clowney. They need Clowney. They need to go get Clowney. And then they went and got Clowney. How'd that work out for you? The Predators can still sell certain assets. And there's no guarantee that if they trade Mikael Granlund, or if they trade Erik Haula, or if they trade Kalle Järnkrok, or if they trade those kind of guys, that they won't get decent returns. And there's no guarantee that they won't make the playoffs. They could still make some trades and have a group of Josi, the goalies, Tolvanen, Forsberg when he comes back, have them carry them into the playoffs. But yet the question still is, what about selling? As I have said, after their road trip, after they beat Chicago, I thought the idea of trading Mattias Ekholm ahead of the expansion draft was now not going to happen. That's the biggest piece. Philip Forsberg was probably never going to happen. So where are we as far as selling is concerned? Adam Vingan from The Athletic was on Robbie and Rexrow this morning, and even he, a big proponent of selling, a guy who has talked about how long a true teardown, 3 to 5 years, might take. Even he said, maybe the stance has changed a little bit on selling. Here's what he said.
We talked about a softer sell last week. This idea of maybe not trading someone like Mattias Ekholm, but still trading the likes of Mikael Granlund and Erik Haula, Brad Richardson if he's healthy, all of those things.
So that's the softer sell. The guys you don't really love that much. Last year, they didn't sell anybody. Craig Smith was a trade candidate. He didn't go anywhere. Mikael Granlund was a trade candidate. He didn't go anywhere. The years before, they were buyers. Wayne Simmons, Mikael Granlund for Kevin Fiala. The year before, Ryan Hartman. The year before, they really didn't do much, but they did add P.A. Parento. This is a little different. This is different. Even if they make the playoffs, they're still looking at Tampa Bay. And I said with Hal Gill last week when I was full on into selling, and I haven't really changed my tune much. I mean, I'm more excited. I think that there's a chance that this is going to be a fun run for the Predators. Maybe they make the playoffs, and that'd be fun. Like the idea of having interesting hockey in April and May. I like it. As a talk radio host, as a fan, I like it. But I'm not sure it changes the long-term outlook of what I think of the organization. In fact, Adam Vingan said for fans that are worried that it will, maybe not to get too worked up.
I get the sense from Predators fans, and I think you've also probably sensed it taking calls and texts on the show, that I think there's this sense of dread of Predators fans who are happy that the team is playing well, but nervous that it's going to, lead the front office to have this false sense of security, that they don't need to do anything to look towards the future. They should go for it one more time. And I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I do think the front office is being realistic about this.
And that's probably the most important thing, If you were to tell me that David Poyle, and I listened to David Poyle's interview on the midday show yesterday, and I listen to David Poyle when he talks, and I try to read between the lines, and for the most part, David Poyle's pretty candid. But I've tried to say, okay, let's see, is there something in what he's saying that is telling me that they're going to do something, or that they're going to go in a certain direction, or that they're going to change? And I haven't gotten that yet. If you told me right now, hey, David Poyle's realistic, what they're doing right now is fun, what they're doing right now is interesting, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that he's going to sit there and if Toronto calls and offers him a second-round pick for Mikael Granlund, that he's not going to do it. Because if he gets that kind of call, ultimately he's going to do it. And right now, he's just holding out for the best offer. If you told me that was the case, I would say, thank goodness. Because, again, we have to think about the long-term ramifications for the Predators. I asked Hal Gill yesterday, what's it mean in that locker room if you have John Hines preaching mental fortitude and toughness and resiliency and fight through it and fight through the earlier parts of the year, and then you finally get to a point to where you feel good about your game and you like your place in the standings, and then they start trading guys away, how that will feel. And Hal said, hey, it's a business. I think those guys understand. The Predators ultimately have to do what's in the best interest of the Predators, long-term, short-term, but most importantly, for the organization as a whole. I don't think any of us, even with this nice run they're on, exciting hockey, big wins, great goaltending, good coaching, dynamic scoring, power plays, penalty kills, second lines, third lines, fourth lines, physical. I even think that we believe deep down inside this team is not a team equipped to go to the Cup. And as long as we know that, as long as the front office acts like it, then I love everything that's going on right now. But if all of a sudden it starts to change a little bit and it becomes this, well, what do you think? Can they go for the Cup? I'd say, maybe slow the roll down a little bit. Even in 2019, when the St. Louis Blues made their come from the grave, return to greatness, and won the Stanley Cup, I'm not sure they were thinking Stanley Cup until after they got into the playoffs. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. Preds confidence. This team is playing at an all-time high as far as confidence is concerned. I think we can all agree. Coming up next, we'll get to your thoughts. Plus, how important is that confidence? What does it mean? We do talk about Tampa. We do talk about the potential. What do we think of that confidence? Could it carry them? 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. Right here at ESPN 1025 The Game. We're streaming on the Game Nashville app.
Tampa Bay Stanley Cup winner. So maybe I'll answer your thought process where you think of it. Just getting in the playoffs and playing Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay being the favorite, heavy favorite in that series. Is that reason to be happy? Is it reason not to make any trades? Again, I have to think about all of those things. I can tell you, I don't think that's a reason for not doing anything. I don't think it's something that would paralyze me, if you will. I think we're still looking to improve. I have no false illusions here that a disappointing start to the season. I think we're recovering. We're finding out a lot about our team. We're inserting a lot of younger players in our lineup, and we're having good success with them. But I do know that we have to get better to get to where we ultimately want to go, and that's to be able to say that we have a chance to compete for the Stanley Cup. So, again, there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made here in the next couple of weeks, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we learn something every day, and certainly hoping that we play well and win against Dallas tonight, and that will kind of solidify some of my thought process. A loss probably takes us in a little bit different direction. So all I can tell you is stay tuned.
That was David Poile. Ian, what did you make of David Poile? You listened to the interview just like I did yesterday on the Midday Show. It's like they go on the road trip, and he says, let's see how the road trip goes, and then I'll tell you if we're buyers or sellers. Then they have a decent road trip. Then it's like, yeah, let's see how these next couple of games go, and then I'll tell you, and they win those games. And then it's, let's see how Dallas goes, and then last night they won the Dallas game. So is there really anything we can read into with David? Is there any tell? If this were a game of poker, and David's words on the Midday Show were him with his cards folded close to the vest, would there be anything you can take away from that?
Well, he sounds reluctant to sell to me. I think he wants to put it off as long as possible in hopes that he can get some type of, spark or see something that could help change his mind to not have to sell and break up the core. I think ideally that is what he would like. And honestly, when it comes to the trade deadline, this particular deadline, this one is deadline spur action for sure.
Oh, yes.
So until it comes down to, hey, we really have to make a decision, at this point, I think for the reason, as I just said, that he kind of doesn't want to sell versus he doesn't want to tip his hand and get other teams their best offer, I think it's going to be down to the last day or so.
So I think the 7-day quarantine period in Canada is a big deal.
That has definitely helped.
And I think it's because now, you probably have to make up your mind by the end of this week if it was a 14-day quarantine, unless you just said, okay, I'm only going to trade with American clubs. And if you do that, you're really hamstringing yourself, especially as far as Granlund's concerned. You would have to make up your mind on Granlund this week if it was a 14-day quarantine. It's not. It's only a 7-day quarantine, so it buys you time. I just feel like if you want to look for a spark, then I think you've been given enough. I'm not looking for a spark. I'm not looking for something to change my mind. I feel like that people do this in relationships, right? They're like, I don't know if I like my girlfriend or not. Give me a sign. And sometimes the sign that they get is not always a good sign long term. So I don't totally believe in the looking for a spark. I think it's looking at the talent on your roster saying, hey, can they compete? That's why I thought it was important that Chase asked him that question about knowing that, hey, if you make the playoffs, there's a pretty good chance you're playing Tampa Bay. And he didn't run away from the idea of, hey, look, I know Tampa's pretty freaking good. And Tampa's going to be even better because they're getting Nikita Kucherov back. So I don't know. In my head, it's funny. You've listened to the same interviews I've listened to. And I got to give David credit for this. You've listened to the same interviews I've listened to, and I think it's the opposite. I think David knows in his heart he's got to sell. I think he knows in his heart that he's not going to sell Ekholm. He's not going to trade Ellis. He's not going to do anything crazy. But I think he knows Hull has got to go. Granlund probably's got to go, knowing what Toronto has been rumored to want to give the Predators in order to get him. Like, I think he knows. Just like when I think he felt good about the 15 team, like he knew they were going to make the playoffs, but he probably didn't think that they were going to go far in the playoffs. He traded a first-round pick for Santorelli and Cody Franzen. This is the opposite. I like my team, and maybe we make the playoffs, but I got to sell to get the picks.
I almost feel like the Granlund and Holla trade or Cousins has been pretty much a given at this point.
Even Granlund, though?
Probably, considering he's only on a 1-year deal.
And a texter says into the text line, I feel like you still have to try and move the guys that are on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
I agree. That's where the Granlund, like Granlund's the only guy that, like Holla doesn't move the needle to me.
Yeah, he won't get you much, but he'll get you something for nothing once you're going to lose him. And he has been valuable, especially on a penalty kill lately, Holla. But, if you get a 4th-round pick, it's better than just losing him after free agency when you can, plug somebody else in there right now when Duchesne comes back, for example. So I think the more question was with the Ekholm or the Ellis kind of big trade pieces. Like I think he's been reluctant to do that because they believe so much in this core, or at least they did. And I think he kind of wants to win now. So I don't know. One thing I have been thinking about as far as the playoff push.
Okay.
The lack of what ownership, and not just the Preds ownership, but ownership around the league, what they think about teams trying to make a playoff push and making the playoffs with the lack of revenue this year, and if it helps or hurts to make the playoffs at this point for extra revenue.
Sure. I mean, because there's always been the thing about, hey, you get the home games in your building in the NHL, that's where you make some money.
And there's not really going to be a lot of fans, so I don't know which way that goes, with the push for a playoff. Do ownership want them to push to the playoffs in hopes that they can get some type of extra revenue? Or are they, hey, don't worry about it, we're not making as much money kind of thing? I wonder which way that goes.
Texter to the text line, Matt says, Duchesne does not need to go return to the lineup or even the roster. A friend of mine, well, it says they're behind the scenes, said that just before Duchesne was injured, he felt like that was the reason that the Preds weren't playing up to their potential. They said he is an issue, and there is a reason he has been traded more times than goals he has this season. I'm not the biggest Duchesne hater in the world. I think that there's now got to be a big chip on his shoulder. I mean, he's got to look at the fact that this team's played better without him. And I think Duchesne puts a lot of pressure on himself. I remember the first interview he did in Nashville was on this show. And I asked him about the pressure. You signed this big contract. Everybody's talking about you. There's a lot of pressure. And he said, hey, nobody puts more pressure on me than I do. And I think he's put a lot of pressure on himself. I can't go as far as to say that I think Matt Duchesne is a cancer to the team, because nobody has said that to me. So I will not even, broach that subject unless I hear it or I feel it or I see it. And so far it hasn't been that way. Michael says, the fact that the Preds are having success with some key guys on the injured list means they have the ability to sell some pieces while they're still competing, because they can either sell the guys that are injured right now or the guys that will step out of the lineup when those guys return. I would say this. Does it make you worried that if you trade a second or third line guy and you bring somebody up off your taxi squad and you put him in the lineup, does it not make you feel like, hey, this guy could come through and this guy could make a difference? Roman Josi, the captain, will join us coming up next. His thoughts on this team, his thoughts on this run, his thoughts on what this group is capable of. That is next. Let me tell you about my official movers, TriStar Moving. Everybody, including me, hates moving. Not when you have friends like I do at TriStar Moving. At TriStar Moving, they'll get you 5-star service throughout the entire process. That's why their motto is TriStar Moving with 5-star service. Everything is taken care of, from covering floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, the door itself, to wrapping and protecting all of your furniture and placing your TVs, just like how I got a bunch of TVs, in protective boxes. They even offer a brand new state-of-the-art storage facility in case you need a safe place for all of your stuff. The owners, Garrett and Robert, are true Nashvillians, and they truly care about helping the community any way they can. That's you, the community. So if you're looking to move, give my friends a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or visit their website at nashvillemoving.org/radio. They'll give you 5% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, nashvillemoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you. My official movers, TriStar Moving. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Big announcement, by the way, in 30 minutes, but I'm not sure it can be as big as the way the Preds are playing a red-hot 6 in a row. I mean, this is President's Trophy team-type stuff. The games in a row they're winning, the way they're winning games at the end, the way they're playing, the way they're getting just excellent goalkeeping so far. I mean, just been fantastic. A team that a lot of us, including me, left for dead 3 weeks ago. That's looked at a team going on the road to play really good teams like Tampa Bay and Florida and Carolina, and the injuries, and all of a sudden the team came through that. Then they started to win against Detroit. Then they won at Chicago. They're back in the playoffs. Excellent game last night. And we are joined now by the captain of the team, Roman Josi, who joins us on the program on an off day. Roman, thank you so much for taking time and joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep, Roman, I want to start with this. So as a talk radio host who covers this team, the losing is not fun, you know, to watch games and then go on the air the next day and say, this wasn't right, that wasn't right, or that's not. I have to imagine that being the captain of the team and playing on this team, it is a night and day difference. What's the feeling like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, we just won 6 games in a row compared to where this team was a month ago?
Yeah, it's a lot better for us too. I think just the whole atmosphere in the room, obviously. It's sports. When you lose, it's not a good feeling. The next day you come to the rink, nobody's in a good mood, and when you win, it's a lot different. So it's definitely a lot more fun than it was in the beginning of the season.
Roman, if you had to say, I know you've talked about work ethic, and Coach Hines has talked about commitment and mental fortitude and things of that magnitude, but if you had to kind of define what you mean by work ethic, when I hear you say that, I don't think you're talking about, guys showed up today and said, let's just go through the motions. I mean, I know this group. I know you guys play hard. But what has contributed to that work ethic that is now turned into results? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think our team game, like the details we play with, I think there's a lot of things that in a game that you do well that you don't necessarily see. Obviously, you always see the goals and stuff, but it's the little things like the back checking, for example, or being quick to close on a guy. And those little things can add up to big things at the end of the game and add up to better results. And I just think our team game has been so much better. We're all working together. Every guy, the five guys who are out there, are working together, and I think that's helping us a lot.
What was kind of the moment for you where you realized, you know what, we might be able to turn this thing around?
Well, I think on that road trip, obviously I got hurt in the first game, but after that, just watching the team, I remember we lost 2 games in Carolina, but we played really well the first game, lost that game in OT, and I was watching the game, and I thought we deserved to win. And even the second game, which we lost, I think it was 5-1, but if you look at the whole game, you saw kind of change within the team that we played really hard, and it just we kept doing it throughout the whole road trip. Every game you played, we didn't win every game, but I felt like the team was playing really hard, and I think it just kind of clicked in everybody's mind, and we knew how we had to play to be successful.
What have you learned as the captain of the group? When you became captain, the team was coming off of a Stanley Cup final appearance. And so you have the highs of going to winning the President's Trophy and intense playoff battles and winning a division the second year you're captain, the lows of struggling, changing a coach, getting knocked out in the play-in round last year in the bubble, things not going your way this year towards the bottom of the league, and now you guys are coming back up on it. What do you think you've learned about leading a group and what this group kind of is about?
Well, I think finding that balance. I think, that year we went to the Cup is a perfect example. I remember we started really bad that year, and I don't know how many games, 20, 30 games, we weren't in the playoffs. We didn't have a good year, and then all of a sudden we started playing better, and obviously went to the finals. And just over the years, the more you play, I think every team goes through phases where you don't play well, and I think you got to find that balance. You can't get too low, and obviously you want to keep them as short as possible. But it's always a fine line between trying to get out of it, being honest with yourself, but also not getting too down on yourself, and still just believing in the team. And I think that balance is important every year because it's such a long year, and every team goes through it.
Roman, I asked Pekka when kind of the rumors started picking up around the league. I asked Pekka what he thought of those rumors. I asked Pekka about, hey, being a guy that is at the age that he's at, you don't know how many more cracks he has at it. Ever since those rumors started circulating, he's been absolutely fantastic. And certainly he and UC part of that reason why. And when this team wins, those guys are usually a big reason why. How much of what you guys have done has been about him and about trying to kind of give him a shot to get to another playoffs, and maybe you guys get another crack at this?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, like you said, those two guys have been unbelievable, and the way they're playing, they're helping us win games. They've been great, and obviously Pex is such a legend in Nashville, and he's such a big part of our team. I mean, everybody in our team looks up to him, and every time he plays, everybody wants to win for him. we definitely want to get a lot of wins for him because, like I said, he's an amazing person. He's done so much for the city, so much for the organization. So whenever he's playing, it's definitely. I mean, the team wants to win for him, and he's an amazing player. He's been really good for us, and he's a great teammate.
Preds captain Roman Josi is our guest. I literally listen when David Poyle does his weekly interview on our midday show. I listen to that like 2 or 3 times, Roman, like a Talmudic scholar trying to analyze and pick apart each and every word of what David is saying to see if there's like a little something I could say, buyers, sellers. You were asked last night about the core of the group and how important it is for you to keep that core together. But how much do you guys look at the play of what you've done and use that as kind of a message to David about how much you guys still believe in this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows the way we're playing. There's definitely a lot of belief in the group. I mean, obviously we didn't perform the way we wanted to early in the year, but the way we've been playing lately, it's everybody's stepping up. I mean, we've had a lot of injuries, and it's kind of that next man up mentality, and that's what I meant by playing that team game. It's almost like whoever comes in is playing that game, and it's what makes us successful. So. I mean, like I said, I love this core. We've been together for a long time, and I believe in this core, and it's a lot of fun right now the way we're playing.
How much credit do you give Coach Hines for this turnaround? How much do you look at? I mean, because you've been here obviously the whole time. I mean, you've been with 2 great coaches, we would all say, Barry Trotz, Peter Laviolette, and now Coach Hines is kind of starting to really turn things around here, and I think he's starting to get fans to believe in his message. He's been preaching the same message, Roman, since the day he got here, but kind of how much for you guys with the success do you look at what Coach Hines has done and the job he's done as a coach?
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, it wasn't an easy start, and obviously as a coach, when your team is not playing well, it's never easy. But you know what? He's always believed in us. He was always behind us, and we knew we always had his belief, and he just kept preaching his message, and he kept doing the same things. And I mean, our coaching staff has done an amazing job of preparing us for games, looking at things that we can do better, and it's paying off right now. So he's been a huge part of that turnaround for sure.
As a captain of the team, Roman, how much have you looked at your leadership through this process? At the beginning of the season when things weren't going well, I mean, we all remember, I don't want to say like your rant at your press conference, but we could tell there was a lot of emotion after some of these games when you would meet with the media. And now starting to see that team game being played, how would you kind of evaluate the leadership angle that you've taken with this group? And maybe how has it been different than times in the past?
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating for a while because, like I said, you always go through up and downs, but obviously we had a down period that lasted a little longer, and it's easy to get frustrated, and I think we all did. I mean, I was frustrated, like we didn't play well, and but like I said before, you got to find that balance because even when we're frustrated, we still had a lot of belief in the room that we can turn it around. We knew we could, so. I think a little bit of frustration is good because everyone cares, everyone wants to win. But at the same time, we kept trying to figure out things, how we can get out of this, trying to keep a positive mood in the locker room too, and just get out of it together as a group. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Last night, physical game, Dallas comes out to play. You guys maybe don't match it at the beginning, but then really dominate towards the middle and end of the game. What's the feeling like in the locker room after Tolvanen puts that backhand in?
It was great. I mean, it felt like a playoff game. I think we knew they're going to come out hard. Every time we played Dallas, it was a big game. They're a physical team, and they're tough to play against. And like you said, I think the first half of the game, they were the better team. But I didn't think we played bad. But I just thought they had a push and were a little more physical. But we stuck to our game, and I think that's something we've learned over this year too. Like sometimes you don't play your best, but you just got to stick with it and keep playing your game. And I felt like we kind of wore them down towards the end of the second period, and then in the third period, I thought we had had a really good period, a lot of chances, and obviously when Toby scored, it was a big goal for us and big win.
How optimistic are you that this is not just beating up on, catching a hot streak, beating up on some teams like Detroit that might be a little down, but that this team is a legitimate contender?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just the way we're playing, with the consistency we're playing the last, I don't know how many, 10, 12 games, we've been playing the same way, and I think that's what we're kind of searching for in the beginning of the year, that identity, how to win, how to be successful, and I think we found that in the last couple of games, and every team is tough. Like, it doesn't matter who you play. Detroit is beating other teams. Chicago is beating other teams. So every game is tough, and you don't take any wins for granted. So there were big wins for us, and I think it's just us fighting that identity and knowing what makes us successful.
Roman Josi with us. What's more mentally taxing on you? Being the captain of a team that's added a bunch of new kids into the lineup, or being a dad that's added a new kid at the house?
I don't know. I mean, that part is a lot of fun, and same with the lineup. I mean, the young kids they've been great. I mean, they came in, they brought a lot of energy, and they've been playing unbelievable. So it's a lot of fun. I remember when I came into the league, it's really exciting, and there's a lot of games right now. There's big games, and they really stepped up. So they're both a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a lot of fun at home. Get a little less sleep, but it's been a blast at home.
Well, have you ever thought about that? Maybe the birth of your son has probably forced you a little less sleep. Maybe you and the team played a little bit better since that happened. Like maybe one thing led to another.
I don't know. I mean, it definitely gave me a boost for sure. I mean, it's such a cool moment when your son is born, and just going through it right now, it's unbelievable when you come home and you see your son. So it definitely gave me a big boost for sure.
Roman Josi is our guest. Last thing for you, Roman, before we get you out of here. Somebody who I trust a lot, who was a part of the team when you guys were really, really successful. I'm not going to tell you who, but I would say that you know this person really well too. And I asked him, I said, what kind of captain, what kind of leader is Roman? And he said to me that Roman's the kind of guy who's not going to go scream at a bunch of players or, after a loss, throw a bunch of sticks or go crazy, but that when something needs to be said, he's willing to say it. When a meeting is needed to be had, he's willing to have it. When you look at your role in that dressing room, how do you feel when somebody that used to be a part of that says Roman is what you want in a captain because he's willing to do what it takes? How important is that to you?
Yeah, I mean, that means a lot for sure. I think obviously I'm still learning as a captain, and I think over the years I've been the captain of this team now, there's so many learning curves, and he's right. I'm not going to scream at guys after every game, but I think I've been getting more comfortable at saying things when things need to be said. But I think as a captain, for me personally, it's a fine line between saying something after every game or picking the right spots, and I think you just kind of gotta go with your gut feeling. But I mean, I've had some amazing captains here that I played for, so there's a lot I learned from those guys. But like I said, I'm still learning. Every year is a different challenge, but it's been a lot of fun being the captain of this team for sure.
Roman Josi, as always. Roman, thank you so much for joining us. I know that. Look, I know you're busy both on the ice and off the ice, so appreciate your time. And best of luck tomorrow against Dallas, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, Roman Josi, Predators captain. And I would say this. I mean, I think it's easier when you're winning. I think it's probably easier to bring new kids into the lineup than it is to bring new kids into your life. But we'll see. We'll see with Roman Josi. The one thing I think that was important to me was the team game aspect. And there's some other things that Roman said that I want to get into, and we'll do that next, plus your reaction. I mean, I think he was pretty honest. He was pretty honest about how not fun the early part of the season is, and I think we can tell the energy. We'll get to that on the other side. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Plus, we've got a big announcement coming up at 5:30. 615-737-1025. A reminder, you can stream us via YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope. We're streaming just like the morning show every morning. You can catch us same spots every day. We'll be streaming live. You can see my just handsome face. Got a haircut today. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. Speaking of Roman, Smashville Live. That is tonight. So every Wednesday throughout the Pred season at 6 o'clock, right after we get off the air, tune into Smashville Live because they've got former Preds players, current Preds players will be on the show. And again, tonight they'll have Darcy Hordichuk. So watch the show via the game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and theGameNashville.com. During the show, look for a keyword to text in for your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Dallas Stars tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. Smashville Live is brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025, The Game. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Great interview with Roman Josi. I mean, we've had some good ones on the show with Roman. I thought that one was, look, it's easier to have energy. It's easier to be excited. It's easier to do all those things when you're winning. And they are winning. But, I asked Roman, what has it been, the work ethic that you talk about? Because, like I told him, I don't think it's that guys are just kicking their feet up on the desk. I think 2 years ago, last year, the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I think that was an issue. I don't think that's an issue. I didn't think that was an issue in January. I thought the team played hard. The team wanted to win. The team had desire. There was just something missing. And Roman talked about the details. Little things like back checking that can build up to big things. When the Predators went on to the Stanley Cup final, they were one of the toughest teams in the league to face. People didn't like playing them. People didn't like playing here. People didn't like playing them. They were physical. They would make it tough for you to get the puck through the neutral zone. Laviolette would always, he would always put pressure on the other team. When you had those four defensemen, you could always put pressure on the other team's top lines. And teams didn't like playing the Predators. They talked in the offseason about wanting to be a team that's tougher to play against. That doesn't just mean getting guys that aren't as skilled. It means getting guys that will back check, guys that will get up there and forecheck. And I think that's something that Hines has preached and preached and preached and preached. And somehow on that road trip, it got through to him. My biggest takeaway from the Roman Josi interview, and there were a lot of things, like it's clear to me that this team wants to win for Pekka Rinne. I remember asking Pekka about those rumors that were coming out about them wanting to sell. And I asked Pekka, hey, these are rumors that the Predators are looking to sell and you're untouchable and you're an older guy. What do you think? And Pekka answered him respectfully and honestly, like he always, a sense of, guys, I'm 38 years old. I don't want to be traded. I just had a kid. Don't send me off. And clearly they have a ton of respect for Pekka Rinne. And Roman outlined it, talking about he's a legend in the city and the kind of guy he is and what he's meant to the organization and what he means to each one of them. So that stood out to me. But the most important thing that stood out to me from this Roman Josi interview was, I don't know what happened on that road trip. I don't know if they got together and held hands and took memories of the past and put it in a burn bag and said, forget about everything from the past. We are moving forward. And they sang Kumbaya and they drank a little moonshine. And I have no idea what happened on that road trip. But Roman brought it up like 2, 3, maybe even 4 times in that interview. He talked about that road trip. And that's the road trip that the Tuesday before they left, when Josi got hurt in the middle of the trip, Ellis got hurt, I think at the start of the trip, Duchesne got hurt before the start of the trip, Saros got hurt before the start of the trip, Cunnin got hurt before the start of the trip. You were like, uh-oh. I said on the show, and I told Hal Gill when he came on, I said, Hal, they're going out there to get murdered. They're going out there to take on the Carolina Hurricanes 2 years ago in the Western Conference Final, the Tampa Bay Lightning, last year's Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, this year's kind of hot team out of nowhere. To me, they were going out there to get murdered. They were taking an AHL roster with Philip Forsberg on it and Pekka Rinne, and they were going to go play. They were the Washington Generals, and the other teams were the Harlem Globetrotters. And I was just like, oh, my God, this is going to be so bad. And somehow it wasn't. They won some games. They played well. Even Roman said the 2 games against Carolina, they lost one in overtime. They got blown out in the other, but he felt good about how they played. Whatever happened on that road trip, that's been the difference. And I don't know if it was David Poyle coming on the midday show and saying, let's see how the road trip goes. And if the road trip doesn't go well, then we're probably sellers. I don't know if that's what sparked that locker room. I don't know if it is a meeting that Roman called, a meeting that John Hines called, or just one game where it clicked. But clearly that road trip, and I don't know what happened. And these are the things that I've been a part of a team before. A lot of people that do these shows have been on teams before. Road trips like that, there's always something good or something bad that kind of kicks that season in order. Something happened on that road trip, and it obviously set the Predators in the right direction. Also, I think John Hines, Roman Josi was very complimentary of John Hines and the job he's done. and that should not be lost either. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We have a special announcement. If you are a fan of this program, if you listen to this program, you know that it has been, well, it's been one way for a while now. Me talking for 4 hours and Ian dropping some dimes every now and then. We're going to change it a little bit. So we know it's kind of gone through some changes. Well, we decided we're going to change it a bit too. We have a special announcement coming up next. And let me just state for the record, I couldn't be more excited about it. So stay with us. 615-737-1025. The tournament is down to just 4 teams: Gonzaga, UCLA, Baylor, Houston. If you've been watching from the sidelines, now is your chance to get in on the action with the FanDuel Sportsbook app, my official sportsbook app. They are hooking you up with exclusive 40-1 odds on all 4 teams left in the bracket, even the favorites. That's right, new users get 40-1 odds on any team to win this round. You can win a $200, that's right, on a $5 bet. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, my official sportsbook app, and make your first deposit to unlock exclusive 40-1 odds. The app is so easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid in as little as 24 hours. Just sign up with the promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code JGM. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. Must wager in designated offer market. $10 first deposit required. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For problem gambling support, call 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar, moving ESPN 1025 The Game. I guess I teased this a bunch. If you're looking on the stream, you're only going to see me on the YouTube stream, the Twitter stream, the Periscope stream, all the streams. You're only going to see me. But as we have teased throughout the day, we have a very special announcement today here at 5:30. And it's so special that we even have a press release. And that is, well, I'll just move the press release to the side for a second. If you've listened to this show for a while, you know that it was once a two-person show. And Ian's always been with us. And then, we had an abrupt change in the fall. And it's been a one-person show since then. And not that I don't like to hear myself talk. Because, Ian, I think we can back me up on this one. I kind of like to hear myself talk.
Most times, yes.
We decided we wanted kind of another element to the show. And we kind of put out feelers and we said, okay, let's see who the best person available to do what would be in the best. I'm going to sound like Mike Vrabel here, but to see what would happen, who we could find that would add an element to our show that would be in the best interest of the radio show. And Ryan, I don't know how, came across Caroline Fenton, who is with us right now, and was wowed, I guess, by the resume and was wowed by the experience you had at ESPN and decided to take a little bit longer look. He ran the interview process, and I'm announcing now that we are adding Caroline Fenton to our radio show right here, Stillman and Company. We now have a company.
I'm officially the company, and I'm so happy to be here, and that was quite the introduction. Thank you so much, Jared.
Yes.
Such a nice introduction from Ryan to you about me. See, my introduction to me about you was good luck. So
I have heard that from multiple people. That is not something new that I have heard. But Caroline will be joining us. She'll be the company in Stillman and Company, and I think it's a big step for a lot of reasons. Number one, Caroline is a digital guru, and that is kind of the future of where this is going. We are really proud of what we're doing now, where we're streaming on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and Periscope and everything else. And Caroline helped run the digital operations at ESPN. Jason Fitz worked very closely with Caroline, spoke incredibly highly of her. She's going to be our digital guru. And not only that, but she knows her stuff. I will tell you that in the interview process, in the press release, my quote said, if sports media had a draft, we'd be very fortunate to be able to select Caroline Fenton. What I really said in my heart was, if there was a sports media draft, we wouldn't have been bad enough to be able to draft Caroline. She's one of the people at the top. And not that I would ever sit there and say that we would want to add somebody for one reason or another, but I think having you as the first full-time on-air female host here at 102.5, I think is a big deal. And I will say this. I think that, there's a lot that goes into doing the kind of show that we want to do. I was looking for somebody who every day I felt like would bring the same intensity, the same passion, the same knowledge of sports, the same love of this medium, of what we do. And I've always said to people that one of the best parts about what I felt like our show did was everybody had a role. Everybody did their role. Everybody every day was fantastic. Ian, I know I talk about this a lot, but and you've now been here a couple of days behind the scenes.
Right.
And on Monday you will start, it'll be Stillman and Company, and you will be throwing up the stop signs with some of my crazy takes. But sometimes I think Ian doesn't get enough love for how good he is at his job. And I knew right away after I first, Zoomed with you, through Ryan, and then you came in town and you got to know everybody a little bit. I thought I knew. I was like, okay, this is going to be somebody who's really going to add a special element to our show. Not just the digital element, but the female element, somebody to kind of throw the stop sign up at me every now and then. Sometimes agree with me, although I've learned that most people don't, so I wouldn't get too excited about that. But we're really, really, really lucky to have you. I know that Ian and I both think that we had a good show, and now I think we feel like we're definitely taking it in the better direction.
Thank you. And I'm so incredibly excited to be here. And like you said, I came from ESPN. I did a lot of the digital things. And thank you to everyone back in Bristol who gave me this incredible foundation to eventually grow to this platform. So everyone listening, I will be growing the digital presence of 1025 as best as I can. So tune in on YouTube, tune in on Twitter, tweet us, comment on our YouTube if you have any questions for us. We'll be trying to engage with you as much as we possibly can on our Twitter accounts, Facebook, YouTube, all of that. So Jared, thank you so much for having me. I couldn't be more excited to be here at 1025, here with you, here in Nashville. Let's have some fun.
So I stalked your, like you had a website that was like attached to all your info or whatever. That was like, hey, look at all my stuff or whatever.
Right.
And I stalked it. I was like, okay. Like, I don't really want to listen to this podcast that's like 3 months old from college football, but I feel like I kind of need to listen to it.
Right.
And so I listened to your podcast. I watched some of the videos you did.
Well, thank you.
Some of the Baseball Tonight stuff you did, which, by the way, being on Baseball Tonight with 3 people who can only name one Marlins player, that's a little depressing.
Well, that was the whole shtick, was you 3 are going to tell me that you're baseball geniuses and you can't even name one Marlins player?
That's disappointing. But I listened to the podcast. I watched the videos. And I think it was like a Saturday night at like 11:30 at night. And this was right when I think I was like booking the hotel and flights for Puerto Rico. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch these videos. And I saw them and I was like, okay, this is somebody who can be really special for our team. And this show, I mean, I have always told people, like, you know, I don't feel like I have a lot of skills in life. But this show is probably one of the things that's like really important to me. And so the opportunity to add you to our show, I can't speak for everybody else who was involved in the decision-making process for this. And I'll read their quotes in just a second in the press release. But I feel like I knew like 5 minutes in, I was like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to be something pretty special. And I'm really excited to continue to grow what we have. And Ian, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, absolutely. You guys have done a good job kind of summing up everything and, you know, the changes when Floyd resigned last I guess it was last winter. So, yeah, it's been great getting to know Caroline a little bit here and there, and I'm looking forward to what she's going to bring to the show. It should be a nice change of perspective here with a lady voice. It'll be nice.
So I think that's pretty cool. I will say this, though. Like, when you have an afternoon drive opportunity in Nashville, I've never taken this job for granted. Like, I've never taken being from Nashville, I've never taken the opportunity to connect with Nashville fans for granted. And I knew you didn't right off the bat. But there were a ton of people that had interest in this position and people that would text me or people that would email me, whatever. And, like, Caroline, the entire resume, the ability, the desire to learn, the desire to be here. I mean, all of those things that she had, I just knew. I was like, the one thing I've seen a lot of people that have been on the air in Nashville and have succeeded, and I've seen people that have failed, and the one thing that I felt like made our show really special when it was Floyd and I was that we both just loved this city. We loved these teams. And, you're always worried about that when somebody comes from out of town, and I knew right away that I wasn't going to be worried about that with you. I just knew when looking through, and Ryan did all the work on this. I did so little work, but you just knew that of all the people that were applying for the job or people that wanted to be here, I just felt like you were the best, like, resume, interview, everything. I mean, I cannot tell the listeners how excited I am about starting Monday, Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Ian. I mean, we are going to be bringing the heat every day. It's going to be the same Titans, Preds, NFL draft, SEC. It's going to be the same stuff, but I mean, I'm really excited. And one thing I feel like is that the listeners know, like, when we're excited about stuff, and I hope they understand how excited I am about adding you to our group.
Oh, thank you. And it's not lost on me that there were probably a lot more talented people with a lot more experience than I had that wanted this job, but I'm so grateful that you chose me, and I'm so grateful that you feel how excited I am to be here.
Well, you say you as in if I was calling the shots on this. I mean, I can pretend like I was.
Well, you can just pretend like you were. They don't know. Yeah,
that's true.
Jared did all the work, so thank you, Jared.
Sure.
Yeah, you can take the credit. But I absolutely love this city. I love these sports teams. I love these fans, and to be able to represent this city and everything that it represents is just the greatest honor. Also, it's not lost on me that I'm the first female voice on this station. So if I'm able to pave the way for the next voice at 102.5 The Game that is a female, then that's what I'm here for.
So 3 things. I'll save the third one. The third one's a good one, Ian, but I'm going to save that one for down the road. 2 things. When I knew that I was like, okay, I think she's really going to be able to work on this show. The first, Caroline went to LSU. Diehard LSU fan.
Go
Fair?
Tigers.
Okay.
Go Tigers.
So when I said Will Wade is a cheater, I didn't get a lot of pushback on that. I didn't get any pushback on that. Now, maybe that's because you're nervous that, the new show and you're coming onto this show and you don't want to, step up the first day and say Will Wade's not a cheater. But I was like, okay, if she can have a Joe Burrow, what is that called?
A pop socket.
Pop socket on her phone and love LSU that much and still take the hit when I say her coach is a cheater. Now, I mean, my school, hired prostitutes, so who knows? But that was the first thing where I was like, okay, all right, I think this can. And the other thing was when we were in this process of adding Caroline to the group, I already knew in my head we were going to add Caroline. I already knew. And so it was just her and I. And we were just talking about the show and what it had been and where it had come from. And I said to you, I looked at you and I said, you and Floyd have a lot in common. And you looked at me and you said, really? And I said, no. I said, no.
See, I got kind of hopeful. I thought that I said, oh my gosh, really? Me and Floyd have a lot in common. Oh my goodness. Like, wow, what an honor. That's so nice that you said that.
Well, between your experience in the NFL and his experience with digital, I would say that, those two worlds kind of...
they're a little bit different.
Just a little bit. And I would say this, I have more faith in you running a football team than I do him handling digital. Ian, would you back me up on that one?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So
let that be a note to all of you NFL GMs out there. I'm also taking your jobs.
Okay, so I think there's probably something for that. But and I told Caroline, one thing that was really important to me was that I told Caroline early on because I don't want to be the guy who you start I saw this in basketball, right? Like somebody would go from one team to our team and they used to be a GA or a video person at another, say Clemson. And they come to Louisville and all they do is talk about, well, at Clemson, and it kind of wears on everybody.
Right.
And I told Caroline, I was like, look, I'm probably going to talk about Floyd every day. And I wanted to make sure that you knew that wasn't anything personal towards you because what we built was awesome and that chapter's over. And so now I am so excited about what we can build. The three of us. I mean, Ian is very much a core part of this show. And I'm just very excited what the three of us can build. And I believe in the talent of everybody here. I believe in the work ethic of everybody here. I believe in the hot takes of everybody here.
They're going to be hot.
They're going to be hot. And I think we're going to have a lot of energy, and I don't like it. I hate on the radio when people say, so we've got so-and-so coming up later today. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm like, dude, just have the fun. Don't tell people you're going to have a lot of fun. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun, so I'm really excited. Caroline Fenton joining the crew. Ian, what do you think?
I'm excited, man. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to Caroline putting you in your place.
I am too.
So I told Ian this, by the way. This is another thing. That I have never seen Ian's contract, and I'm sure they would never let me see Ian's contract. I have always believed in my heart that Ian had signed a deal where he always had to disagree with me in the past. And I'm like, that better not be the same deal here where I am always the odd man out. I'm sure it probably will be, but I do worry about that a little bit.
It may be. And quick story before we go to break. So when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I think I was like junior or senior in high school. I was at a University of Tennessee game with my parents. They're big Vol fans, Vol alums.
What year are we talking?
This was 2014.
Okay.
2014. So I'm at a Tennessee game, and there's a guy sitting behind us who is just absolutely going on and on, bad take after hot take. And I thought, you know what? I'm sick of hearing this. So I turned around, kind of put him in his place, told him what I thought, told him how it was. And I turned around and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it's just kind of funny that that's exactly what I'm doing is I'm, calling out hot takes from a man in the state of Tennessee. So I guess it's just kind of meant to be.
There is something to that. I think another funny thing, at least for me, is that in 2014, I was on, Drew Diener in Louisville. I was on his show, The Diener Show. And I was kind of in that sidekick role, and I was young, and I was getting getting started. And after 2 years with him, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, I expect you to go off and go be a star." Now, I think I probably haven't done that, but I appreciated kind of the belief or the excitement, and I just would say that I kind of feel like the role is reversed now, where I look at myself as someone's got a show, and now you're part of it, and I think you're really going to grow with us. And I think again, I couldn't be more excited, but I know the listeners don't want to hear us talk about it. I know they want just to hear us do it. So guess what? We're going to start doing it. Monday, Caroline's going to be with us full time, all the time, every day. You all will probably if you are the kind of person that listens to this show because you don't like me, and I know there are a lot of you, it's okay. If you're one of those people, just know you'll probably like her a lot. Caroline, see you Monday.
See you Monday. I'm so happy to be here.
There you go. That's the newest edition, Stillman and Company. We got a company now. It's not just me and Ian. It's not just like, hey, we're having a party. Nobody's at the party. It's just me and Ian.
As wonderful as you and Ian are, I'm happy to be on board.
We got a company. Stillman and Company. We'll wrap the show up next. 615-737-1025. We are delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app. Stillman and Company, and soon we'll have a much larger company. But for right now, Ian, it's just me and you. Andrew, by the way, texts into the text line. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Says, I wish J-Rob could draft as good in the first round as Stillman and Company did with their new addition. Can't wait to listen to y'all fight it out. Now, Ian, I might be crazy. I think Andrew is one of these texters who texts in all the time, Andrew in Clarksville. I think he's one of these texters that, like, listens to the show because he doesn't like me. Like, all the texts every day are a disagreement. Those people, I think, generally speaking, usually like the other person a lot more. I think that those people, I think everyone's going to like Caroline, but I think those people are probably going to like her the most, the people that don't like me.
It's quite possible. I would probably bet on that. Yes, I would.
So the other thing that's interesting about all this, again, is all of our shows. Well, I don't know if the midday show is for sure or not. I know the morning show is. We're streaming live, 4 hours a day. I got the setup right now in the TV room of my home. We've got a nice Chase McCabe made a nice Stillman and Company backdrop that I literally do the show in front of. I thought about doing like a Nashville, like the skyline like they do on TV where they fake it. Not every single cable news show is doing their show from right in front of the Washington Capitol, but somehow they make you think that. But no, I mean, we're streaming, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, whatever. We'll have all of our shows are podcasted. You can listen to it. And unlike other sports stations in town, we don't have to hire somebody else to do it for us. Like, we don't have to make a partnership with somebody else. We just do it ourselves. We just go and add talented members of the team that are experts at it, and we let them do it. People that have done it at the highest level at ESPN, and we let them do it. There is an interesting story, Ian, that is starting to develop. And this is the Deshaun Watson story. Have you been keeping up with this at all?
I mean, I have for the most part. I wouldn't say super closely. I think the number of lawsuits is up to around 20.
21. But now, according to ESPN, 18 women have come out to defend Deshaun Watson in statements. So 2 more lawsuits alleging sexual assault and inappropriate behavior were filed against Deshaun Watson. And then apparently they've got 18 women that are defending Watson. I don't know what to think. I feel like everybody wants somebody to sit there and say, oh, well, this is obvious that he's guilty because 21 women have come out and said, and I, as somebody who doesn't really know Deshaun Watson, we've interacted on Twitter before, as many people remember. But as somebody who doesn't actually know Deshaun Watson, I don't know. And I heard Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports Insider, was on the morning show the other day, and he was like, they have to put him on the commissioner's exempt list, and they have to let it know, and they have to all this kind of stuff. Dude, I don't know. I mean, the thing I hate about the legal system is it's like these things take forever. I would like for this to be adjudicated pretty quickly so we could know for football season, but also so we could get the details out there so we could get an idea of what Deshaun Watson actually has or hasn't done. But it just kind of feels like we're going to keep hearing details that come out that are accusations or are statements of defense, and we won't get to the actual facts for a while. And it makes me think that this is something that could go on for years and years.
It's quite possible. And it is a heavy topic, so it's probably one of those things that the more time to get figured out correctly, the better.
Agreed. Just let it all play out. That's going to do it for us. We are out of here. We are back tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Smashville Live. The Preds are hot. Smashville Live's next. We'll see you tomorrow at 2.